Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to another episode of Tatami Talk. My name is Juan. This is my true partner, Anthony. This is a judo podcast for judo players by two judo players. So, Anthony, how you doing?
Right before you're gonna ask me this every episode, and I'm gonna say you're gonna ask me this every episode every single time. But
it's a good way to open up the show. I want to see how my friend is doing.
You're putting all the pressure. You're putting all the pressure on me. It's like
okay.
And
let's ease up a little pressure. So a few episodes ago, our last episode, we were talking about judo gis and stuff.
Yeah.
And you may see on Anthony's Instagram now if you're watching stuff. But he got a new gi. He's waiting to test it out. He hasn't tested it out yet, but he got this new lightweight gi. Where'd you get it from this time?
It's Kusakura from Japan, and it's their lightest. I mentioned it in the gi episode, but it's the lightest weight that they have, and is meant for like summer training for youths in Japan and compete in, like a nice cheap thin gi to start off with and compete in when you're in school and training in the summer.
You mean cheap as in price? He means price cheap, not cheap material. Price cheap. Affordable. He means affordable,
and it's affordable compared to their other offerings. Let's just put it that way. So
yes, I don't want people to get the wrong idea.
Yeah, I also have our dojo's name in the kanji like embroidered on the chest part, like Hollywood. So, I was just like, why not? Like that's what they do in Japan. But this will be a pretty good travel gi, I think, because it's pretty thin. I sized up this time because in the past I'm a 5.5, right? But single weaves, they don't really make half sizes. So my Fuji single weave that I'm retiring because it's my first judo gi ever that's like has brown sweat stains that doesn't come off anymore. That the one I'm retiring was a size 5, and it's been leaning kind of small. So that's why I decided to size up to 6 for this one. So I put it on real quick. It's super baggy. Expected, so I'm gonna give it a couple of washes after a few training sessions and then see where it is. If it's still a little too baggy, then I might take it to the tailor and get it maybe shortened a little bit. Not because I told you in the episode I don't like the people that tailor it to make it look better, but again, I'm looking for the perfect travel gi, right? So I'm tailoring it in to make it a little easier to pack.
Where can you tailor a judo gi at? What tailor can you go to? Are you going to what was that? I like the way you look. What's that place called? Men's Warehouse to tailor it?
No, any local laundromat or dry cleaners. You think they can do it? Tailor there. Yeah, anyone. Just make sure you check the Yelp. It's funny that you're asking me this because someone from Sawtell Dojo actually messaged me on Reddit asking the same question.
Okay.
Today, and I responded. I was like, "Yeah, it's not a people think it's like judo gi, so it's like I need some special guy that knows how to work with judo gis." Like, no, it's if you're just getting especially if you're just getting the sleeves made shorter or the pant sleeves shorter, or just like taking in the skirt or taking in the waist and stuff. It's just like any other clothing. It's not nothing really special. I mean, but if you're buying the super expensive Kusakura gis and Mizuno, I think they can custom make it to your size.
Yeah, so you have to send your measurements. They have a thing to send your measurements.
I don't trust that because I have had some suits I made when I was in college that were done that way. Like you measure it yourself, or you have your girlfriend, wife, family measure it, and then you send in measurements, and they've always come back like kind of off, and I have to take it to the tailor. And then it's just like a back and forth trip. Plus you have to, the way they did it was you take it to a tailor, you get the invoice and you show them proof of invoice and they credit you back and stuff like that. It's way too much work. It was much easier to just get it right the first time by finding a local tailor and getting it done correctly, basically.
Okay. All right.
It's much easier to do it that way too. So I would just go to Japan and go to the store and have them measure you there. And
he'd rather fly all the way to Japan just to get his sizes done.
Yeah, but I go to Japan fairly often, so that's different. But
well, I look forward,
and also supporting your local business, right? But what I was going to say is check the Yelp reviews, because what you're looking for are people who just like are terrible. Like I said, it's easy, but there are people who there that just are absolutely terrible. Right. Or if they mess up, they refuse to like fix the problem. and stuff like that. Or they'll just like mess up your clothes, or they're just huge assholes. Like, so it's just like any business. Just be careful.
Yeah, it's funny.
I wouldn't take like my super expensive gi there, for example.
my buddy Matt, he's one I do my kata with and stuff. He just bought that size 6 that we had. We had this double weave 6 at our for like years. No one to buy it. No one could buy it. No one wanted to buy it. So he bought it. And the pants were like really long on him. Yeah. So his aunt is a seamstress. So he just, whenever he gets the stuff, he always gets the pants always get them tailored to him. So he just takes to his aunt's house to do it. And he told me that she complained they were like double weave pants. And she was complaining about like, she almost broke my machine. Yeah. She was mad at him.
That's the thing. They have people who have never worked with it before, like don't know that the pants, not so much, but the gi, especially if it's double weave, and belts too. You need a special needle to work with it, because it's thick. It'll break the needle. So, that's something to watch out. I should actually message that guy and let him know, like, if you're
like, oh shit, I just remembered all this stuff. I should tell him this.
Yeah, some of them will charge you extra because they have to get a special needle for it. Or they broke their needle. So just be wary. Don't be like, oh, I thought it was only like $10 because it's $10 to hem my dress shirts. But no, judo gis are thick, so they need special needles to work with it. So,
all right. So that's really something to look forward to hearing about in the future when he tests this new thinner gi, how it works out for him. If it's good, if it's not good, how's he feeling it? And I'll also tell you about how I think it looks on. I'll be like, that really looks like a white belt gi you're wearing there.
I don't care how it looks. I just want it to be thin and easy to pack, and also not be like what I call the Globetrotter gi, which feels like an IKEA trash bag. So yeah, so when it's hot and wet, it doesn't feel like you're grabbing like a wet sandpaper or something like that. So
So in some other news, you were telling me you came across a judo player that's a direct descendant from Kano, which we all are technically.
No.
What you're saying? No, I'm not saying like legit, like blood wise, but like student wise. I mean, student wise.
Yeah, no, like I never heard of this guy, right? Steve Cunningham, but someone on Reddit posted a video of him, and apparently he has a lot of blog posts up, which I actually stayed up till like 4 a.m. reading all his blog posts about.
We hate when that happens. Just go down that rabbit hole. Oh God, yeah, just go down that rabbit hole.
Exactly.
Looking at stuff and just.
I was reading all his posts, and he sounds like he knows what he's talking about. He has a lot of knowledge and stuff. Obviously, I can't verify it, but so someone posted a video of him doing I want to say Hanegoshi. Yeah, Hanegoshi. And it was just interesting how he taught it. Like, it wasn't how I think you would do it, but the way he did it, I don't think was wrong either, just like a different way. But I looked at his other videos, and also within that same video, he explained how to do Uchimata, and I've just never seen it taught that way. So I'm going to try at the dojo tonight. And then he just came out with the Uchimata video. So after I watched the Uchimata video, there's even more questions in my head. I'm just like, my head's just like blown. Like, I don't, it kind of makes sense, but at the same time it doesn't. So I'm like, okay, I'm just going to have to try this out myself, basically. But yeah, I think he's great at teaching. I wouldn't necessarily say it's like competitive judo. It's definitely leaning more towards theory and kata style of kind of like judo and mechanics, but just like what we said on the kata episode, doesn't hurt to expand your horizons, right? So yeah, maybe there's new things I'm going to be able to learn from this. So yeah.
Okay.
Check it out. Steve Cunningham. Highly recommend it.
Okay. So the main part of the episode here is that we actually conducted an interview with Ajax Tadehara, a former U.S. team member. He fought at minus 100 kilos and he ended his career at over 100 kilos. He was on the U.S. team from, what was it that I have right there? From 2011 to 2016, he was part of the U.S. team. So we did this interview this past weekend. It's a little bit of a long interview because we just got into some deep stuff with him, his judo career, start like how he grew up in judo.
This is going to be a long one.
Yeah, how he started his career, how he was in his career, and now that he's at the end of he finished his career, how it is opening up a dojo from scratch. He didn't go back to his family's dojo or go back to gym he trained before. He decided to open up his own gym on his own from scratch. And it's just talking about his experiences in doing this and just the ups and downs and just the life of a judo player, an IGF international judo player on the U.S. team.
Yep.
Is there anything you want to bring up before we go to the interview?
So for those of you who listen to Dave Roman's Judo Chop Suey podcast, he's been on Dave Roman's show before. But that was before he opened his own club. I think this is shortly after he competed against Teddy Raniere. So there is maybe 5 or 10 minutes of discussions where the topic kind of overlapped with what was discussed at Dave Roman's podcast. But trust me, this whole 2-hour interview, most of it does not overlap with what Dave discussed with Ajax. So if you're like, oh, I already heard him talk with Ajax with Dave, but you like that, what they discussed, like that kind of discussion, then I'd still recommend you listen to the whole thing. It's long, but I think personally it's worth it. Ajax was awesome to interview, a lot of insight, a lot of experiences, wasn't afraid to say things that were controversial, I guess, in a way. I definitely learned, was a little eye-opening for me, a lot of stuff that he said. There was one more thing I wanted to say. Yeah, basically there's no overlap, so just listen to it anyway.
All right. So without any further ado, let's get to the interview. Now, everybody, I'd like us to introduce our very special guest today, Ajax Tadehara, former U.S. team member, used to fight at under 100 kilos, finished his career at over 100 kilos. I'd have questions about that part right there. So, Ajax, thank you for coming to the show. We greatly appreciate it. I know you're supposed to be with us last week, but Anthony messed up.
I did. I apologize again.
Anthony was a bad boy, but we have you this week. Thank you for coming.
Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate y'all having me on. I'm always excited to talk judo, talk shop with some other people that are interested and enthusiastic about it. It's daily life. You don't really get that too much. At least I don't up here in Idaho. That's not too common.
So my first thing is to introduce you to our audience here. So tell us a little bit about yourself. How did you get into the martial arts, and how did you end up picking judo of all things, of all the martial arts out there?
Well, like a lot of, I guess, national team members, it was chosen for me. My dad's half Japanese. He's originally from Murray, Utah, and Salt Lake City used to have an actual Japantown. They had a lot of immigrant farmers from Japan. So there was a full culture there. They still do like the Obon Summer Festival every summer in downtown Salt Lake. But long story short, he started judo when he was 10 years old. He had some teachers come from the Kodokan to learn English, stay for a couple of years. So he had some real traditional old school judo growing up. He was a railroader, Union Pacific, transferred out of Salt Lake into Pocatello, Idaho. It's about 2.5 hours away. And then he started teaching at the university, did the Idaho State University Judo Club. So I just grew up doing judo since, literally there's, I was in a gi before I have memories. There's pictures of me 3-4 years old, just rolling around and stuff. And judo's just been forever.
So you started in Idaho, or you started in Utah?
So I started in Idaho. Yep. They had moved here, and they'd been in Idaho for maybe 10 years before I was born. So so I'm just born and raised Pocatello, Idaho, my whole life. Yeah.
That's really cool. Now you said, all right, so you're a quarter Japanese then. I know it's kind of weird when people probably see you and they're like, Tadehara. They're like, excuse me, where's Tadehara at? And you're like, right here. And you're like, no. I'm asking for Tadehara, not you, sir. No. That's me.
Tall,
I'm Tadehara.
Yeah. Tall white kid with a thick beard. Yeah. It's very unassuming. If you look only at my mustache, you can see the Asian come through. And just the mustache is kind of Fu Manchu style, but the rest of it's, I totally get it. But
that's great.
Yeah. And then randomly, my parents gave me, my first name is Greek, and we have no Greek lineage, just a cool name that they liked. And we're like, yeah, just give him a Greek name, Greek Japanese kid. And people are like, so are you Greek too? I said, no, I'm not.
I'm actually seeing more and more people with that name now. Like a lot of my friends who have kids, actually I know a couple of them that named their kids Ajax.
You want to know what happened with that? I'll tell you exactly. I called it as soon as it happened. I said, that name's going to be real popular in the next 2 generations. Deadpool came out. Francis was named Ajax, and I was like, that's it. Ajax is in people's minds now, and there's going to be a lot of them.
Oh yeah.
So up Oh, so
it's just like how everybody would name their kids after the people from Game of Thrones for a while. That was really popular.
Yep. And so I didn't watch Game of Thrones. I'll be honest. I get a lot of heat for that. But there's a character named Khaleesi there, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so exact same situation. I grew up, one of my dad's national champions from the year 2000. Her name is Khaleesi Felt. So she was named that back in I don't know, mid 80s, early 80s. Yeah, way before Game of Thrones. She's the only person I've ever met named Khaleesi. And then that show came out, and then there was a bunch of kids named Khaleesi.
Well, I think the books were out, so their parents might have been like fans of the books.
Okay.
Yeah. But Khaleesi is to clarify is a title. Like it's like saying emperor or empress or something of a tribe. So yeah.
Fancy.
The name of the character is Daenerys. That's the name.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
All right, so let's get back to judo now. I talk about emperors and Khaleesi's and Ajax name. It's really cool stuff, but I want to get back to judo. So Ajax, how did you get onto the national team? Was it like was that your goal from like really young? Did you be like, when I'm a teenager, like I'm good at this, I'm going to try to get the national team? Or was it something that's pushed upon you by your dad since he was a judo player?
So it was kind of 50-50 of everything you said. First things first, I hated judo growing up, Sensei's kid. Yeah, I was one of those things, I wasn't very good at it. I was not a focused kid. So, if you don't try hard in judo, if you don't pay attention, you only learn lessons the hard way. You get beat up and it sucks. My sister is 4 years older than me. It's a big age gap. And so her and her friends could just slam me all day, and judo wasn't fun. I was really into soccer. That didn't work out. I was still doing judo, and my dad, he was always real careful not to be, that parent coach and overcoach their kid and burn them out from a young age. So he actually barely coached me at all. He would come on trips with me, of course we would travel together, and he would coach me if there's no one there. But day to day in the club, he wanted to leave me alone. He wanted the other black belts to kind of guide me and make it a little more enjoyable. Mm-hmm. And then when I was in 8th grade, junior high, he brought in actually a really famous kind of behind the scenes Japanese teacher who had just graduated from Tokai. And he came and studied in Pocatello. He studied English for 2 years and taught judo. And then for about 6 or 7 years, we kind of had these overlapping Tokai graduates come and stay from 1 to 3 years and learn English. And a couple of them, got into the graduate program, finishing physical education in Tokai University. And then they did athletic administration for their master's at Idaho State. And so he was there for 3 years. But so all these Japanese teachers, I had a couple Korean teachers come through. They kind of were like, hey, you could be good, if you really wanted. I watched the US Open this weekend. Speaking of which, US Open is this weekend, but so these Tokai guys would be like, hey, we just went to the US Open and I saw the guys in your weight class. I was 90 kilos at the time. I was barely even coming up. I was 81s actually in high school, super tall and skinny. And then kind of got to 90s, and they said, hey, we saw the 90 kilo guys, and honestly, we think you could beat them. We think you could probably go to the Olympics for USA. And they were kind of just slowly reinforcing that. And I was like, man, that'd be pretty cool. Why don't I start taking this more serious? And so I was just kind of bebopping around aimlessly in life as a 15, 16-year-old kid with long hair, They're like, let's go to the high school nationals and see how you do. And I got absolutely just schooled. I mean, I was a freshman and I fought Josh White at 81 kilos, right? It was his senior year. First exchange, right off the grip, 3 seconds. He just grabbed me, foot swept me like he does to so many people. Ippon, it was just a super clean one. And I was like, it was one of those losses that did inspire you, I was like, oh man, I want to try again. It wasn't even like, oh, I want to go beat that kid that beat me or anything like that. I was just like, I want to try again. So then I came back to high school nationals the next year. Then I did junior Olympics one of the summers. When I moved to 90 kilos, I took second, lost to Jake Larson, a very strong, talented Team USA kid, just And it just kept kind of building from there. Every time I lost to dudes like Jake and Josh and anybody else, I was like, man, I want to get after it a little bit more. And after I graduated high school, I spent every summer through college going to Japan, training at Tokai and Taidai. And that's really where I turned the corner from, fifth place. The best I ever did high school nationals was fifth place. Even my senior year, I fought for bronze and lost. But I started going to Japan and started turning the corner and was able to start first couple wins at senior nationals, and then I took my first bronze medal and it really was a slow, consistent build for me. No junior world teams, which is kind of rare for a lot of senior world team members. Usually they started out on the junior world team. Yeah.
And then they go up. Yeah.
Now let me jump in real quick. Yeah. So correct me if I'm wrong, but I assume Idaho is one of those states where wrestling is pretty big in high school, right? Like, did you ever get the thought of or pressured by your peers to try out for the wrestling team or swap to wrestling for scholarships or anything like that?
So not for scholarships. So actually what happened, I did one of the years I went to high school nationals, they were held in San Jose. And I got schooled 2 matches in a row, and both matches I lost by 2 wazaris from Rotegari, right? Double leg takedown. And one of the Tokai coaches at the time, right, that was here, Nobu, he was like, wrestling's really strong here in the United States. You should probably cross-train wrestling and get better at defending those double legs because you're so tall. People are going to double leg you all day and katagruma any day they want, so you got to go to wrestling. So I started wrestling my senior year of high school. I'd just never done it before. I walked in, there happened to be, 189 weight class was open. No other contenders on my team at the time. So I did get to wrestle varsity. I made it to state, won my first round, and then got absolutely eaten alive by some of the big wrestlers. Definitely in Idaho, wrestling is a big deal out here. There's a lot of really talented farm kids, have tons of work ethic, and they're naturally super strong, right? From manual labor all their whole life. So
got that farmer strength.
I was gonna say it's a very real thing. Same as construction strength. If you're into masonry and heavy blocks and stuff, it's a very real different type of strength. But I didn't have any pressure to get scholarships or stick with wrestling or anything like that. It was literally just from the judo coach. He was like, it'd be really good for you. And it definitely was beneficial.
So you were definitely, your mind was set on judo already. And this is kind of like just an accessory exercise or conditioning or something, basically.
Yeah. It was get more experience, get a different viewpoint, not just Japanese 2 hands-on Uchimata Haragoshi judo, right? Not just clean ippon judo, but let's look at these ankle picks and see what it's like. And then, hey, if you can throw somebody without a gi, you should be able to throw them with a gi, kind of a thing. So,
How hard was the transition? Was it just, this is pretty natural, it's just different grips? Or were you like, now I got to relearn a lot of stuff and there's bad habits I have to break and everything?
At that point, the transition was very natural. And the worst part was, I didn't understand the rules very well my first couple matches, and I didn't understand the scoring system or the strategies. So, in judo, it's always like, go, ippon, right? And so doing that in wrestling, and I found out later in the international judo scene as well, that'll hurt you. There were times where I'd be ahead by a wazari with 20 seconds left, and I came in for Osoto and got bombed for ippon, and still learning that lesson 10 years after high school wrestling. But, I'd throw big hip throws, and the guy would lock his hands and roll through. He'd just take the fall and roll through. And I'm thinking, man, I just threw the snot out of this kid. That should be a couple good points, And instead, since he rolled through and came up on top, I'm down 2 points, and then you have to fight off the bottom, and you waste tons of energy. And so the technical, getting on the mat, brawling, hidden techniques, foot sweeps were really, really easy in wrestling. They're not used to foot sweeps as much. So it was very unassuming. It was very easy to set them up. But yeah, definitely there was a lot of situations where I was just outmatched in terms of experience and mindset. And like I said, pump the brakes every now and again. You're up 5 points, just ride the dude out for 30 seconds and you win.
Just instead I try some.
try some power half, get too high. The guy sucks me down and pins me. And it's like, what are you doing? You know? So I do like wrestling though. I like it. And I do like cross training BJJ. I started doing that after wrestling went so well. I thought, well, I should cross train that too, get better at Newaza. So,
yeah. Well, I wanted to ask was there a lot of, since you were a judo player first, like I grew up being a wrestler first and I came into judo and there's a lot of wrestling techniques I brought to me to judo. Was there a whole lot of judo techniques? Because we also have one of our girls that are on our team and stuff here. She's a national competitor and she's also a wrestler judo player. Was there a lot of judo techniques you took with you to wrestling? Was there like, well, I can do the harai goshi, kataguruma, since you know I knew how to do a judo kataguruma and stuff. Was there a lot of stuff you took with you, or do you have to just be like, okay, I need to just not use judo and use just wrestling?
Oh no, I 100% survived solely on judo.
Because you went to States your senior year. Your freshman year doing wrestling. Yeah. You're already going to States. You had to be doing judo, I was hoping.
Yeah. I was able to effectively pick up like a classic ankle pick, an outside single, and boy, that was probably about all I actually got better at in wrestling. You know, a couple turnovers. I got better at Newaza. I got better at scrambling. I got better at understanding the leverage of a chicken wing or a half Nilsson, you know. And so that helped a lot in judo. Everything else was foot sweeps, haragoshis, osotogaris, ouchis, kochis. You know, the lateral drop came really natural from both learning Sasai growing up and also learning, you know, my dad was pretty traditional, so I did have to do all 5 sets of Nage no Kata for my Shodan. And just learning the, you know, Ukiwaza and Nage no Kata. It really did. The lateral drop was definitely one of my main wrestling throws. But yeah, I mean, it was all judo, you know, so, and just, yeah.
To clarify, since I'm not sure how old you are, and also for the listeners, like were leg grabs banned when you were competing or when you started judo, or was that during the time when the rules where you can only counter with leg grabs?
No, yeah. So I grew up with the, you know, quote unquote old school rules. We did full off the grip, double leg, single leg, Sakui Nage, Teguruma. So I graduated high school 2007 and I was on the, you know, like I said, high school national circuit and the senior nationals at that time. So I was competing judo with full katagurumas and everything. And then, 2010, they kind of made that hybrid. You can do it as a second attack or a counter attack. And that was when I first started winning like senior national matches. And like I said, I took like 7th place one year, 2010, and then took my first medal 2011. And they were still going through those rule changes. And then, you know, 2012, 2013, we saw that cut them all the way out.
Yeah.
It definitely, I kind of fell right in the middle. You know, I knew a lot of athletes that literally couldn't compete with the new rules. You know, they could do Kachiki Daoshi and Teguruma and Morote Gari and Kataguruma. And once those rules came out, they were just like, hey, I don't have anything else to do. And they quit and they walked away from judo forever, you know?
That's really interesting to revolve your game around those 3 throws, I think.
Yeah. Well, it's basically you have like, they're all off the grip attacks, right? So it's like if somebody gets 2 hands on you, you stiff arm them, you hold them away, you circle, maybe you do like a tomoe or a sumi to save yourself. And then next mate, you come in aggressive and then hopefully you score a Koko or a Yuko, right? Back then you had the smaller scores. So you could last a whole match just kind of grinding it out like that, which is directly what they wanted to avoid and why they made those rule changes, to see more Ippons and less Yuko in 30 seconds and 4.5 minutes of grip fighting
around.
Yeah, especially recently online, I've seen especially BJJ people would always say like, oh, like they took out the leg grabs because wrestlers were beating the judokas. I'm like, it's mostly because of the stalling. Like,
it's mostly just because it's long, boring matches. The thing too is, Olympic wrestling. The thing is, it's just the sports trying to stay relevant in the Olympics. And wrestling goes through the same rule changes we do at an Olympic level every 2 to 4 years. And they change, well, is out of bounds a point, or is out of bounds a penalty, or is out of bounds just a warning? And they change, can the coaches throw a flag in or not? Can you argue with the refs? And they nitpick it just as much, you know, and wrestling goes through all the same stuff anyways. And it's never like, oh, well, you know, judo guys were coming in and throwing Greco-Roman guys, so they wanted to ban that. You know, it's just part of being in the Olympic realm. The sport has to stay evolving constantly, which is frustrating, annoying. I don't know.
Well, it's one of those things where we talk about all the time how we go to tournaments and we'll see people, like, literally coaches tell their kids to do something, or adults sometimes tell them to do something. Like, he knows that's illegal, right? He knows the rule change. You can't do that, right? Because there's a lot of coaches out there that have blatantly told us, like, I really don't keep up with the rules that much. Like, dude, you're setting your kids up for failure. You're setting your guys up for failure if you don't know the rules. Yeah.
It's a really tough line to walk, because then, like, on the other hand, you do lose a lot of really great fundamental theoretical judo lessons. Mm-hmm. You lose like the applicability of self-defense, or, like I said, you know, judo going into wrestling, it was a lot easier to apply. If I had to do judo, these rules, and then go to wrestling, it's a lot tougher. You're going to be a lot less likely, you know, so it's a tough thing to be one of those, well, we do traditional martial arts judo versus like, well, then your kid's going to go compete and get smoked. And that sucks for everybody. It's like, well,
we'll still see guys go in for like a double leg or a single leg sometimes, and go slap the leg like, oh no, hopefully the ref didn't see that.
Yeah.
So to back up a little bit, you mentioned starting judo basically at your dad's university club. So were you the only kid there, or was that a university club that was open to the public where everyone can bring their kids and they had a kids class, or were you training with these university guys?
So my dad did run a local kids club for the years I was growing up. Essentially, when I hit like junior high, we did a dual enrollment, right, through the public school system, dual enroll with the local university. I got PE credits for public school and also university credits for the class. So we did have the kids team like really growing up. I did start, like I said, in 8th grade, training at the university, and like even having all your judo background, there's always a white belt or a second semester student who's a grown man, you know, and you're getting beat on by these people, even if you're quote unquote better than them at classical judo. Oh, I know more throws. I can do better uchikomi. Come randori, you get some good workouts in. You get some good practice.
And just throwing you around sometimes. You're just like, play correctly. Yeah. No, you get that sometimes. We'll get a guy that was like a Division I wrestler every now and then will come to judo, and they'll just have that just body lock strength sometimes. And we had a white belt during the summertime that was coming, did really well, give me yellow belt and stuff, did really good. So, but all of our, I call color belts citrus colors. So all of our citrus colors, I had a hard time with them. And then Anthony one day was like, oh, Juan, this guy's giving people a hard time. Oh, okay. I tested his place thing. And I did. Anthony then was just like, how can you do that to him? You told me to.
I didn't tell you to. I'm just telling you to watch out for him.
Right.
So is the university club still around? Like, have you gone back to visit? Like, had trained there or maybe guest taught there or anything?
Yeah. I teach maybe 2 or 3 times a semester. My dad still teaches the classes. So, he's like, hey, come in, and a couple of those university students are starting to trickle into Schnauzer Judo at my club, trying to, get a couple extra days. And so we're kind of building the same team in 2 places across town. Definitely the club's still there. They don't compete as much as they used to. A lot of the black belts. The tough thing with the university clubs is, once you graduate and you're no longer like affiliated with the university, they try to put a cap on that. And then you get a full-time job and you can't just randomly be on campus at 3:30 in the afternoon, on a weekday. So you see all these people get their EQs and their shodans or their nidans, and then they have their life changes and they get married and they have kids and they get jobs. And then suddenly, my hometown has just like 50 or 60 black belts, which is in a small Idaho town. It's like a lot of good judo, but
that's awesome.
Yeah. You don't see any of those people for 10 years, and they just, judo's hard to keep up with, and so it's currently a pretty low key club, beginners club, but it's still a great program, and Dad's still out there coaching.
That's great. That's amazing. So you're talking about.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I want to ask let me get at it. So you were talking about how when you got older, how when you're in college, you go to Japan during the summertime and you train at Tokai and stuff. Are you fluent in Japanese?
During those years I was studying Japanese, and I was, I would go for like 2.5 months at a time. So you're living in the culture for a while, and I was pretty good, not fluent, but I could definitely get around. No problem. I could surprise most Japanese people, some tall white kid that spoke pretty good Japanese and stuff. Definitely at this point, man, it's a skill so unused, it's pretty.
Because I was going to ask, like, going there for 2 months at a time and training in judo, to be like, if I could only speak English and train judo for 2 months there, would that be like hard and stuff? Or like, okay, I speak judo, so I understand. Okay, uchikomis, all right, I got that. Uchikomis, newaza, okay, I got that. Newaza time, So.
Yeah. No, having just a little bit of Japanese definitely helped. And the locals are in like the judo team were always a little bit kinder to you if you tried to speak Japanese.
I think that's any country.
Definitely Tokai specifically has a lot of foreigners come in and out. And so they're not always super friendly because they get kind of tired of it. And so they make it a point to try and throw you into the walls or into the taiko drum that's in the corner.
Oh my
instead
God.
Instead of playing in the middle of the mat and trying to get you home, it's this thing of like, beat up on the new foreign kid or whatever. And so once they realized I studied a little Japanese and I was a little bit humble and I was actually there to learn, then they're like, hey, let's go get lunch after practice or something, get dinner and show you around the local spots a little more. But it's not always the case, and it helped to learn Japanese, but it's good lessons out there.
When I went to Japan, when I was planning my trip, a lot of people were like, you should go train at Tokai or like this university or that university. I'm like, first of all, I need connections to go there.
Yeah.
And second of all, I don't want to train with them because I'm wasting their time essentially, because they're taking this seriously and I'm just there to travel. And basically, unless you're there to seriously train, most of them are sick. Like you said, sick of people coming by, staying for like a week and just treating it as a vacation, So I don't recommend people who are just like recreationally training to go to those places unless you're going as a whole club or to dojo or something.
Yeah, I would agree. And if you're going to like stop in and watch a practice and kind of see like, oh, how do the lions train? What's the shark pit like? Great learning experience. Yeah, go watch, check it out.
Are they actually okay with that? Like, if you ask?
Like you said, it kind of depends on your connections. When I was there, there was a couple people that stopped in and I saw watching and stuff, and I kind of asked them, hey, what are you guys doing here? And they're like, they basically said, we're nowhere near this level of randori, and we don't want to come here and get, break our necks and tear our shoulders up, but we want to see and we want to learn and kind of, we met this guy at the Kodokan and he said, come watch for the day or something. They met Nakanishi and stuff, so they're like, so we're just here learning. But I would agree if you're not like highly competitive and if you're not like physically fit, I couldn't recommend you go to a competitive university. I mean, just the 2.5 hours to 3 hours alone in that heat and that humidity, if you're there in June or July or August, it's like, the workout alone is just brutal, It's almost all randori. The typical practice at Tokai when I was there was like 10 minutes of warming up. It was pretty light. It was kind of just like, do whatever, jog around, maybe 10 minutes of uchikomi or something. And then it was 10 6-minute rounds of motodachi. So if you were a guest, they're like, hey, you're here to train, right? You don't got to sit on the side. You flew all the way over here. They give you the little red sash or a yellow sash. Yeah. You stand in the middle and you're doing one full straight hour, 0 breaks, no water, no stretch, nothing. It's just the clock goes off. You bow to this guy, 3 or 4 people run out. You pick who you want to work out with. And then you start the next round right then. And it's a full hour, 10-minute water break. And then they pick a new line of motodachi people. And then you stand on the wall And then you run out either, if you want every round, you run out every round. If you want every 2 rounds, every 3 rounds, but it's another full straight hour of standing in your gi and running out and trying to get partners for randori. And then it's 10-minute water break. And then it's 20 to 30 minutes of ippon change newaza. So 30 straight minutes of newaza randori. And anytime an ippon is scored, you bow and find a new partner. So that alone is like, if you're not ready to do that. And then on top of that, these are the, all Japan champions and stuff. So it's like, you got to do that workout. Plus you got to do it with like the beastiest people out there. It's like, man,
that's amazing. That's great.
I have I actually have questions about the sash. Most people know about the red sash. Like you just, when you have it on, you can't, you basically go nonstop for like 3 to 6 rounds. So what is the yellow sash for? And I've actually seen a blue sash too. So is there like a reason? Like I know I've heard stories about how one means you're injured and another one means you're competing soon. So you're only going at like 20% or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah. So, from what I saw when I went to the different universities, like usually the red sash is a standard, and that's you're out there, like you said, no questions asked, full randori until they tell you you're done, no breaks, whatever. Some universities, they did the motodachi lineup with a yellow sash, and it was the same thing. And then, there were times where, they'd have a different colored sash on, and that is what they said. They said, "Oh, I'm fighting like next week." And so essentially, like the one guy said, grip fighting only. And we just did a round of grip fighting. And my understanding really though, is it's kind of lost in translation, is essentially in that situation, those athletes get to choose their workout. And that's what and then you're going to respect their choice. So if they say, I'm only doing nage komi, then you're just going to take falls for them. Or you say, oh, I don't want to work with that guy. I don't want to just take falls for 5 minutes, or they say newaza only or grip fighting only, or, maybe they happened to me. The guy kind of knew I wasn't as good as him and was like, we can do randori. Sure. Like, let's do randori. I could use a tune-up round. And then I saw his other rounds with like the Japanese guys. It was only grip fighting. And I was like, oh, okay. So like,
looking down on you.
They get to like choose whatever makes them feel best for their upcoming event,
Mm-hmm. That makes total sense. So when they pick the groups to go out and another group rest, do they try and get everyone that's like lightweight in one group and a heavyweight in another group, or is it just like random?
It depends on kind of where they're at in their school year and where they're at referencing regional championships and of course all Japan championships. So when it was all Japan championships, basically it was their team, their who they plan on competing, and then their backup team in case this guy gets hurt, and then they got to sub someone in. So it was just their full team. Mm-hmm. And if they were heavyweight, middleweight, lightweight, like whatever their team was, that was who they had out there. After the All Japan Championships, they did have some different days where they did heavyweights first, lightweights, or they kind of picked, heavy, plus 100, minus 100, minus 90. They kind of try to pick one of each. And then everybody on the side, you've got 2 to 3 people you could keep within your, pretty close to your weight class. Mm-hmm. And then sometimes the women trained at the same time in the same room with the men. And so they'd have, 2 or 3 women down there, and it was acceptable for a 60 kilo or a 66 to still work out with the women as well. And then of course, oftentimes the women had their own separate room. And so then those would be separate practices. So it just kind of fluctuated after their competition season was over. But during competition, it's just their varsity team and any foreigners, they'll throw, and they always want to get the foreigners out there so that they know we're getting our workout since we traveled all this way, and so they are respectful of that, but otherwise it's their competition team.
Is there any sort of hierarchy when it comes to picking partners? Like the person with the red sash can say no to anyone, or they can't say no to anyone, or whether if you're a high dan rank, then you get to pick who you go with, or you can say no, but if you're a lower dan rank, you can't refuse or anything.
So the like spoken hierarchy is the person with the red sash. Cause like in like a Tokai, there's probably like 30 or 40 people on the wall, mm-hmm. and then there's only 10 to 15 people out on the mat with the sash. So everybody's got to run out. You got 4 or 5 people in front of you. And same thing, like with the red sash, they're like, oh, this is your practice. So you can choose this guy because he's minus 100, or you can not choose him because he's minus 100 and choose him because he's 81s. Or you can choose him because he's lefty, or choose this guy because he's a drop sail player and that's what you're trying to work on. Mm-hmm. So that's how they kind of like let the creative development flow for their athletes, is that if you got the red sash, whoever runs up to you, you do have to pick from whoever runs up to you, but you do get to pick, no questions asked. You get to say, oh, I'm going to go with Anthony for sure. Yeah. This can be,
an easy match. I'll take Anthony.
Yeah, I'm really going to work on something new today. So I want the light guy so I can, try something I'm not good at. There is an unspoken kind of situation, right, with the senpai kohai thing. Mm-hmm. So they don't do this to you when you're a foreigner, but you will see it with them where, say one of the seniors, one of the, older soon to graduate kids runs out and there's 3 other lower classmen, the guy with the red in theory gets to choose whoever he wants. But if his senpai says, no, I'm in front of you, you have to pick your senpai. Then there's kind of that unspoken thing. And if they ever go turn their back on that system as a lower classman, then like they're getting beat up in the dorms that night, And so they know, they're like, okay, senpai said I got to go with him. I better just go with him. Even though I want to go with a lefty, I have to go with the dude who's, it's kind of a fine line on that one.
Yeah, it's interesting.
So when you started competing internationally, because we saw you went to college and stuff. So when you got picked to be on the U.S. national team and stuff, I saw that you first started at minus 100 kilos. Was that like your choice that I got more muscle mass, I don't want to cut down to 90, or just like, I'm just big, I'm going to stay at minus 100?
No, I was the same as plus 100 when I made that jump. Mm-hmm. I was always small for the next weight class.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, essentially they were in theory, they were planned strategic moves. Mm-hmm. So my one Tokai coach at the time, I was, like I said, when I was first starting to win senior national matches, I got my first medal was when I jumped into minus 100. Mm-hmm. And he basically said, you should go minus 100. And I said, okay. I was sitting right around like 89 to 90 kilos. Like I wasn't even a big 90. You know what I mean? There was no struggle at all. I was trying to put on weight to be at 90s. Uh-huh. And he was like, hey, your style's kind of slow. It's not super aggressive. And your techniques, your natural sotogari, haragoshi, kochi ochi, foot sweeps. He was like, your style, like you're a minus 100 and you're still pretty young. You're only 20. He's like, you should go minus 100. He said, honestly, you should probably go plus 100. I mean, it's going to be the easiest weight class. There's the least amount of people, right? Mm-hmm. They're all slower. You'll be way more athletic. You'll have tons of stamina. Mm-hmm. I always grew up fighting the open division as well, even when I was 81s or 90s, to get extra matches, to kind of, roll with the big dogs. And like I said, driving from Idaho down to San Jose or San Diego or flying to Florida it was a lot. Even from Pocatello, you got to drive 2.5 hours just to get to Salt Lake Airport. And then you got to take 2 flights to get down to Florida, and it's a lot of money for us. And so I was like, hey man, get the biggest bang for your buck. Join the extra divisions. If you ever can, get the extra divisions, fight your heart out, do your best. That's where you learn real judo, right? If you're 90 throwing plus 100, like you threw somebody, it was legit, you didn't just get lucky or something. So I was comfortable going up weight classes, and he just was like, man, that's going to be your style. So just go for it now and you'll grow into it over a few years. Mm-hmm. And I did. And I was like number 10 or 11, on the national roster for minus 90s. Senior nationals was particularly unforgiving. And I went to minus 100 and 2 tournaments in, I was in the top 6, and a couple more tournaments. Like I said, I was making bronze at senior nationals. And I said, well, yeah, I've really filled out the weight class. Even that first bronze at senior nationals it's probably like 95, 96 kilos. Still not even close to an actual 100. Mm-hmm. I didn't like the idea of getting real fat. So I never took the sumo approach for minus 100s. I was like, let's just keep lifting weights, keep trying to eat right and build progressively. So yeah, that was kind of the decision there. Is he just said, this is what's in your best interest. You should do it. Maybe you should do plus too. So minus 100 worked out well. I said, okay, good. Yeah.
See, I appreciate that, because that's kind of like my mindset. Like, I don't know what it's been, even though I'm a pretty decent sized guy. I've always been small for every weight class I've ever fought in, except for when I fought my last MMA fight and I was 170. Then I was a bigger guy. But even then I felt weird because I felt slow. But like, I understand that whole thing of like, I like being the smallest guy in my weight class. Because even though I cut down to 90 kilos, I'm still like the smallest guy in 90 kilos sometimes. Yeah. I'm like, how did this work out?
Yeah.
I cut almost 15 pounds. I cut 10 pounds. What the f is going on here?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I think I'm on the same boat as Ajax. Like I fight usually minus 100, but when I had my knee injury, I dropped down because of all the weight loss I had. Mm-hmm. And I prefer minus 100, but not towards the tip of it, because then you have to cut weight and you're worried about your weight. You feel slower and everything. So
yeah.
Mm-hmm. So what was your choice then? So you started at minus 100 kilos. What was your choice then to bump up to plus 100? Is it that, I see an opening, or was it?
Yeah, boy, I'll be honest, man. That one hurts. This one hurts.
Okay. Oh,
so
I'm sorry.
It's good. It's good. It helps to get it out. So that coach had said, you should probably go plus hundreds. Mm-hmm. And of course, we're like, well, let's get to minus hundreds and then see how that goes. And then we'll talk about going plus once I get to at least 101 kilos. So that coach came and went, moved back to Japan, and I graduated college. I was fighting minus 100, like I said, taking my first couple medals, looked promising, like, hey, you're going to start making some teams, Pan Ams or something, or you're getting out to the World Cups. And I was comfortable minus hundreds. I moved to Colorado Springs, and I was talking to the coaching staff down there in about 2014. And I was still still 99, 100 kilos, 101, still kind of small. And in those international divisions, nationally, if you're 99 fighting a guy who cuts from 105 or 106, it's not too extreme. But internationally, the top of those brackets at minus 100, I mean, they're like 10 to 12 to 15 kilos over. They're huge, and they're way strong. And they've been lifting professionally since they were kids. I didn't start lifting professionally until I was like 21, and I was just kind of lifting like bodybuilding stuff before that. And I wasn't very good at it, so like, it's a huge difference. And, the coaches down there were like, I said, what do you think about going plus hundreds, leading into Rio 2016? And he's like, there's no way. He says, there's no way. I mean, first of all, you're barely keeping up with the minus hundreds in terms of size and strength. And you've got room to grow at minus 100. I don't even know what you're thinking about plus. And he said, the other thing is, if you do get that big, if you suddenly got to 115 that fast, now you've got to learn judo with a new body. It's super hard to carry around an extra 15 kilos. If you're not used to it, then your whole judo changes and you're actually not going to be that good at judo anymore, And he said, I really think you can make it a minus 100. And I think you should just focus on filling out an ideal minus 100 body before even thinking about that. Mm-hmm. So I stuck with minus 100 for better or for worse. It worked out reasonably. I did make my first Pan Am and world teams. And was number one and stuff like that for the nation for minus 100. And it was a good experience. Of course, I'm not at this coach particularly. I'm just bitter in general that I didn't I didn't qualify Rio. And when you go to those international camps, you don't always just work with the people in your weight class, right? Sometimes you work with the people below and the people above. Mm-hmm. So I'm working out with these plus hundreds when we're down in Argentina and Mexico and Florida and whatever. And the plus hundreds in Europe were different. When I worked out with those dudes, I was getting housed. I mean, I was getting just mashed and rolled on, and it was rough. But in the Pan Am Union, when I was working out with, like I said, the plus hundreds from like Mexico and Argentina, I was feeling good. I was feeling really good. And this is still when I was minus 100, 2015, 2016. And I looked at who was ranked where. I looked at who was qualifying for plus hundreds from the Pan Am Union, who was taking bronze and silvers at Pan Ams, outside of two Brazilian monsters and the Cuban monster. The division was kind of reasonable to take a medal. So, and then I looked at even just the international and I thought, and I looked at it in 2016 when I didn't make it, when I didn't qualify the Olympics, I looked at all the points. Now at that point in time, there was this huge jump. Well, you probably only needed the years have gone by and I'm a little slower on memory, roughly around 500 to 600 points to be in the direct green qualifying for plus hundreds. Minus hundreds was like 850, 900. And I was like, I was 6 spots away, but it was like a huge gap, and it was like, man. And then of course we saw Sasson from Israel, who was a notorious back and forth minus plus. I mean, he would jump around within a week. He would fight plus and then fight minus, or he'd fight minus and then fight plus the next week in Europe. And he was taking medals in both divisions. 2014, him and his coaches got together and they decided plus is your category to take a medal at the Olympics. Minus, you can go to the Olympics. Plus, you can take a medal. Well, he shows up and takes a medal. And he didn't just take a medal. He fought the beans out of Teddy Riner in the semis. Like it was a really good match. Yeah. And it's like, man, a minus 100 like that comes out. He's quick. He's dynamic. He's got this crazy awesome drop sail on all these plus hundreds. They can't stop it. They can't even keep up with the guy. Well, of course, me and about half a dozen other IJF beasts from minus 100 see that in 2016. And I thought, hey, my old coach did me well the one time and he recommended I go plus. And if I would have scored the same points in 2016, then I could have gone to the Olympics, and gone for plus. And then I saw a dude go from minus to plus and take a medal, and I was like, I got to go with my heart, forget what this coach is telling me. He steered me wrong like half a dozen times. Forgive me. I'm pretty sour about a lot of stuff. Carry a fair chip on my shoulder. I'm aware of it. And I try not to be too, whatever. I don't know. Try not to be too negative about it, but a lot of emotions over the years. So I kind of was like, this coach, he picked what he picked for the wrong reasons, and I got to go with what's in my heart. So then I went plus. And then Karpalik went plus, Tushishvili went plus, about, like I said, half a dozen other top 20 minus hundreds went plus, and suddenly the whole division's way more athletic. And now it looks exactly like minus hundreds as far as your green zones go, far as your,
my plan just backfired. Shit.
Yeah. and so, I'm like, oh, cool. So then I'm not even in there. And, the dudes that I was beating in plus hundreds when I was minus 100, like I said, at those camps, well, 3 or 4 years of them continuing to fight and get better at plus hundreds. Then I showed up and I beat some of them and I lost to some of them. And I'm like, oh, they had 3 years figuring out this weight class and making it happen. And now they're better than they were back then when I first had this idea, 2 to 3 years later, a little bit, day late and a dollar short. So it was nice not to have to cut weight.
I think this kind of shows how other countries have a lot more resources behind them and can basically run this data. Like you kind of had the same idea, but I'm sure other countries had like teams of people like planning out all the scenarios and everything and testing it out. And it's just like they just had better cards than.
Yeah. And I don't, it's tough because I don't like to make excuses and like place blame, you know what I mean? But there's a part where you talk about what really happened. You talk about the conversations that were had, the decisions that were made, why they were made, and the facts are, a certain way sometimes. And so again, not to place blame, not to make excuses. But it ended up, so even when I went plus, my main like strategy was I'll be lighter, faster, more dynamic, more athletic. So I need to go out there and out attack everybody. And if nothing else, they'll take Shidos and they'll get tired in the process. So maybe I can throw them at the end of a match. If you throw for a crappy Wazari, a lot of times in plus, they're not dynamic enough to get out of the pin. So if you can just knock them down with a foot sweep when they're tired, so there was a lot of strategy that I had envisioned. And I talked to the coach about that at the time. And they're like, I think, you know what? He says, if you put it down, it's the same coach, right? That first told me like, no, don't do it. He says, when you tell me that, if you put that plan into action, I think you'll make it at plus. I think that's a good move now. I said, okay, so let's try it. Every day in practice, we shown up and the only coaching I got was, hey, you're in the big kid division now. You got to do what the big guys do to win. So you got to practice Harai Maki Komi and Osoto Maki Komi and maybe Uchimata and Sasai. And realistically, that's really good classic judo, but again, when you're talking about, European, they actually have league judo, professional paid athletes, coaches that are paid salaried per year, and it's their whole job. They know all that. They know how to stop maki komi by now. The whole reason it works is because you outweigh somebody, right? That's like the whole thing. It's like, oh, you got all this momentum and mass, and I was the smaller guy. Where was maki komi going to work for me? It wasn't. Doing 40 throws on the pad every day at maki komi, completely, a complete underservice of my time training.
Yeah.
We didn't get better at gripping. We didn't get better at attack off the grip so that they get the shidos. It was the same, go out, kill the sleeve, put your second hand on, move them around, use your foot sweeps and try El Soto. And if it doesn't work, maki komi out. So it was the same strategy for the last 5 years at minus 100, and so it makes a big difference who you're listening to, who's putting ideas in your head. If you're thoughtful or not thoughtful, you know what I mean? And a huge credit to Ki Tsusai and their program. When I worked out down there with Johnny and Herman, every day in practice was killer strategy, situational strategy, gripping strategy. Hey, you got to move before you try and throw. If you're in this gripping situation, don't just try and rip the grip out, circle this way and rip the grip out. It works better. And you're set up for an attack off the grip. And then you watch Angie and Adonis and Chris and all their young team are coming up. You know what I mean? They got youngest Pan Am champion ever this last year, 73s. And it's, they took a long time for them to build that program the way it is now, but they did and are doing it right from everything I've seen. I've been impressed with their stuff,
I don't know anything about their program. I've just seen their athletes rip it up in all divisions, basically, even their kids. It's crazy. Oh, yeah. So just to back up a little bit without calling the coach out, you did mention he was from Japan, right? The previous coach?
The coach that recommended I go to minus and plus 100. Yeah. And the coach that talked me out of going to plus 100 was a different coach.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I was going to say, historically, Japan doesn't really have many successful upper, heavier weight class athletes until I guess the recent Olympics with Aaron Wolf. But I was just wondering if that could have been a partial reason for that is that they're just not very good at coaching heavier weight class strategies. But that kind of goes to show how you could be a good athlete, but not a good teacher, but also a good coach or good teacher at one weight class and not the other. So, yeah, there's a lot of moving parts for judo when you get men's, women's, heavyweight, lightweight. Yeah. There's just so many different factors that can make a difference. Yep.
It does seem a lot of the time, not always, but it's similar to American football and basketball, where a lot of the more successful coaches were, mediocre or less competitors themselves, and a lot of the really talented champions, multi-time champions, actually end up being really poor coaches, for whatever reason. It's just kind of an interesting, it's not always the case, right?
I mean, I've heard that before and stuff with a lot of I heard it with basketball coaches happen a lot because if you're a really good basketball player, you want the ball. You're that ball hog. It's I'm the star. Yeah. It's a guy that's on the sideline, the second string that sees what's going on and can observe it and figure it out. A coach. So I've heard that before too. So one of your matches, I was looking at your matches. One of your last matches you had, you went against the great Teddy Reiner. All right. And you did really well in that match. He threw you, but it wasn't a great throw. It wasn't one of his beautiful uchimatos he threw you with. How was it fighting the great Teddy Reiner for one of your last matches, I believe also? Yeah.
That was, I don't know, June or July 2019, right? And then I basically had Pan Am Games and the World Championships after that. Those were my last 3 tournaments. So just in general, as a human being, this side of me, it was really exciting, right? It's this is really cool. And I would have felt just as cool, fighting Kerpalik or any of the other, big names. Of course, Teddy's the big name, these days. So it was really cool, and Jack Hatton was asking me before my match, he's like, dude, how do you feel? He knew I really needed some wins. It was kind of if I don't win within the next couple months, then I've got to be done. And he knew that. And so there was a lot of pressure and a lot of, I don't know, just a tough situation. So he's like, dude, how do you feel? And I said, honestly, it's exciting. I told him, I said, it's kind of like pitching against Babe Ruth, It's like, it's going to suck if he knocks that homer out of the park and we lose the game. But who better to do that than him anyways, and at least you get to try. And hey, if there's something comes up or, if you surprise anything or if, the cards play out a certain way, then there's no better story, So it was really exciting and cool. As an athlete who really had my whole life set on going to the Olympics and being an Olympian, it really sucked. I needed that tournament to go a lot better. And the repecharge only bracket system is just so unforgiving. If you don't make it to the quarters, you're out. Whereas it used to be, if that guy won the semis or got to the semis, then you had another chance. And it's like, now I got to fight the other guy that lost to him, And so there's just no hope, if you don't win that, if you don't get to the quarters. And so it really was a tall order on a tournament that I needed a little bit of luck and love on, I needed just a little bit of help and it was the exact opposite, worst case scenario, first round. I still had fun, like I said, I regardless, the judo spirit, you go out and you do your best no matter what, and you try your hardest. I did a full blown warm up, like I was going to fight anybody else. And like I had every chance of winning, like I'd always done, I went out there and did my best. I tried my foot sweeps. I tried to be aggressive and grip fight. I really don't have much experience with people taller than me. I have some experience with people about my height.
He's taller than most people.
Yeah.
And shame about. He's a giant. All right.
At the time, my next nearest training partner was like a 6 foot, 81 kilo kid, and then everybody else was 5'10" and under. So every single day, I'm not even getting anything close to 6'8", and so gripping him just went so poorly. And I'll be honest too, it was both a little bit, it was exciting and also a little disheartening. After that fight, I probably got more shout outs and more credit to my judo and my athletic career than I'd ever had. And the main focus was the fact that I high stepped and escaped that first Uchimata that he had. They were like, dude, you Japanesed him. You did the high leg, man. You got out of Teddy's Uchimata. Like we thought you would be done first exchange Uchimata like everybody else, and I got a lot of credit. And I mean, actually like people I considered close friends were like, dude, that was really good, man. Like, I'm proud of you. And I was like, ugh. I go and take like 5th at Pan Am's. I beat 2 people. And there's no like, oh, I'm proud of you. That's pretty good. You're 5th in the Pan Am Union. And I got out of a throw and people were like, you're the kid, man. That was pretty cool. So it's kind of bittersweet.
Life is just like that,
Well, yeah, judo's it's a little unforgiving, but it was still a nice compliment. And I did have fun fighting him. It was cool, childhood hero kind of a thing. You're like, yeah, I'm on the mat with this guy. It was cool. So.
Yeah, like I said, it was a really good match, and he didn't throw you clean. Like that's the whole thing. They probably expected, he's an American player, he's not the best. Uchimata first 5 seconds or 10 seconds, but you got out of it. And then when he did throw you, I think it was like a Uchimata hybrid or something. I can't remember, but it was an ugly throw. Yeah, he got you over, but it wasn't clean.
Yeah, he was kind of like leading into the Uchimata, and then he switched to Sasai.
Yeah,
and he really just is the hands. He just kind of got me, pushed me down, and.
But you made him work. You made Teddy work. That's the whole thing. Like, hey, I made Teddy work. How about you, Uchimata? I made him work. All right.
Yeah.
Shit. Get out of my way.
I appreciate that.
Hey, that's all you can do. Hey, I'm gonna be. What was the worst thing? Like when the young lion comes to eat the old lion just wants to give the young lion indigestion.
Yeah.
So that was your international career, and you said shortly after that you decided to retire and go into the sunset. What was that choice about? Was it just like, well, I'm not going to make it to the Olympics. I'm just getting tired of this. I'm losing funding, because there's a lot of reasons that people decide to stop.
Yeah. For me personally, I mean, 110%, it was just the money situation. That was literally it. I love training. I love focusing. I love trying to reach those goals. I do love competing. There were times where I didn't enjoy traveling. As a whole, I did enjoy traveling to those tournaments and being in those countries. And I mean, there's not two ways around it. If I won the lottery, I would start training again and try and come back, and maybe not with the same goals. Maybe who knows, but 110%, I'd be at the US Open. I'd be at senior nationals. But it was just pure necessity. And I was getting just a little bit better at that point in time, right? And the 2-year qualification period is pretty long. At that point, 2019, before the pandemic, and we didn't know how that was, nobody knew about that. Oh, you're coming into the last year of qualification. And essentially I wasn't winning any more than I ever had. Finances were at an all-time low. Personal health was at not an all-time low, but it was pretty low. I had a lot of really small injuries that were piled up, and then I'm still on a torn ACL. I tore that and didn't want to take the time off the mat, so I never had that surgery. And that's kind of a constant nagging thing that gets irritated. Then early 2019, about January, I'd actually just had meniscal surgery. I had a bucket handle tear, and the meniscus is kind of this little like donut thing, right? And it kind of flipped up to where I could not close my knee. It was stuck in the joint, and there was no option to straighten my leg. So I had to have that surgery. And we had really, really good health insurance. For me, it was completely covered by the USOPC. And it covers international accidents, it covers like all these different doctors and any sports injury, no questions asked, no co-pays, like nothing. And then it was like $150 a month to have my wife on that same program. So she could take a higher paying job and didn't have to worry about bringing in benefits. And so that was working out good. I had that knee surgery, and in the past, what had always happened is if you made the cut for that, then you were good for the next year. So early January, I get the little email and they said, "Hey, do you want to renew that? Do you still need it?" I say, "Yeah, I still need it." They say, "Okay, you're good." I have the knee surgery for my meniscus. And 6 days later, I get a new email that says the entire USOPC has restructured the health insurance for athletes.
Oh my gosh.
And if you don't take one of these medals in the next 3 months, then you're off the list. And that's not just my health insurance, that's also my wife's. And I'm like, and she has a cavernous malformation in her brain. So she's technically epileptic and has had a seizure before and could have one again. And so it's kind of like, if something there happens, you're talking brain surgery, you're talking long hospitals. We have to have insurance. There's not like two ways around it, And I'm like, well, I'm on technically doctor recommendation, I'm on an 8-week recovery, and I'm supposed to take a medal in the next like 11 weeks. So I come back to these tournaments at like 5.5 weeks, 0 randori. All I've done is ride the bicycle, hit the weights, upper body. And then I did 2 practices of like grip fighting and like don't tear your knee up. And then flew down to South America and I fought some tournaments. And I had beat some athletes I'd like never beat before. It was like, oh, looking good, but it wasn't anywhere near the mark that I needed to keep that insurance. So come April, we get kicked off the insurance, and there's just not two ways around it between all the credit cards, paying rent in Massachusetts, cars, insurance, food, daily life stuff. And every trip is funded out of my own pocket. I had to take a full-time job laying brick. So I was just working as a stonemason 40 hours a week, got to fight Boston traffic, 45 minutes to an hour and a half each way. And then drives, from there, you get off work at 3:30, fight traffic, straight to practice. And I'm showing up with rocks and dust in my hair. I've been out in the sun all day, moving bricks and cement and mixing mud and, hauling it up and doing all the grunt work a mason does. And I was still really strong from the manual labor, but you can't lift weights. You can't go to morning technical practice. There's just, your whole week is eaten up working full time. And then you show up to practice at night, and it's like, it's not sustainable. I'm not a professional athlete at that point. I'm just, doesn't matter what I've done. Doesn't matter there's no way to pay all your bills and get better. And then if you default on those bills, then you don't have any credit left to travel to Europe anyway. So what's the point of skipping out on your bills so you can train and then you don't get to go fight anyway? So I was like, you know what? I'm on the world team for 2019 in Tokyo. I kind of set to like, I can't think of the word right now, but to like lowest bar goals. I wanted to fight in Pan Am Games again. I wanted to fight in another world championships. Essentially, I wanted to compete at the highest level I'd ever made it. And it came down to, if I'm not like, essentially, if I can't take at least 7th at the world championships, or if I can't win like a Pan American medal or take like silver or gold, then I have to be done. I'm not winning any more than I've ever won, and I have no money to really justify it. And I'm less and less healthy. And now I'm training less than ever for the last couple months, you know? And that's the thing, coming in to fight Teddy in Montreal, you know, I left work on like Wednesday and go home and pack my bags and drive up to Montreal all day Thursday, you know, and then, you know, do the tournament thing Friday and Saturday, and then fight, and then drive home Sunday after the tournament, 5.5 hour drive home. And Monday morning, 7:30 a.m., mixing up cement, you know, moving bricks for people. And it's like, you know, like I said, Teddy's out there, gold medal, prize money in hand, and he's good. And there's just no hope for me to get to that level at that point, you know. The addiction had to end. Just had to. There's no, you know.
That is the sad reality of American judo. That is literally the sad reality of American judo right there.
Yeah. I think a lot of people always talk about funding and like just supporting the athletes, but no one ever mentions our messed up healthcare system here. And it's not just
it's not judo specific. It's
not judo specific. It's not even competitive judo specific, because they're like, how do we bring more people or recreational adults into judo? And like the number one thing that I hear is that I don't want to get hurt. I don't have health insurance. Like, how are you going to bring these adults in if people get hurt and they're afraid of training because of that? So and that's just a recreational athlete. And I personally have to go through the USJF insurance claim process for my knee surgery. I paid probably a total of $5,000. The whole ordeal with my right knee cost $5,000. And because I had a high deductible insurance, and this is after, So this is just all part of the problem of how our athletes aren't getting what they need to like succeed. I know you mentioned Dave, this whole thing in Dave Roman's podcast before, because I listened to your interview with him. And I think one of the things that he said was like one of the requirements and indications of a successful Olympic athlete in the US is how much money you have. Do you agree with that statement?
As a generalized blanket statement, if you said one of the highest indicators, not the only indicator, but I would definitely say it's one of the highest indicators, hands down. And I would say that probably is true across most sports. I would agree.
Because if you have more money, you'd be able to travel and compete more. And if you compete more, eventually you can get better. You might not be the best, but you're going to get better.
Well, and even here's something like, so that I probably had about 5 months since I became, a number one team member in the nation. That was maybe like a 6-year run, 5 or 6 years. And I had 5 months across those years where I did not have any job whatsoever, Right. And, so even, when we had the sponsorship with Dick's Sporting Goods and they let you choose your schedule, but so you wake up early, you drive to the gym, you put in a grueling session, and then instead of going and hitting the sauna or the ice baths or eating perfect nutrition, you do what most American adults do. You slam down a gross power bar in the car, and then you got to show up at Dick's Sporting Goods and you got to spend 4 to 6 hours walking on your feet and hustling to the changing room and folding t-shirts and unloading boxes and receiving. And you're working the whole time. And then you got to leave from that, fight traffic at 4:30, 5 o'clock, practice 5:30 to 7:30. And now you've put in a 12 to 13 hour day. And you didn't have any time for stretching, yoga, massage therapy, right? Physical therapy for the small bumps and bruises. The small bumps and bruises in judo add up. and they turn into the big ones. You know what I mean? If you're not careful.
My back right now is hurting, and same exact reason. Yeah.
I dropped on his head yesterday. He was all crying about it.
Now you got to hear about it for 2 weeks. I know.
Yeah.
But yeah. And so like, I mean, even if you just had, it's not just all expenses paid for your trips overseas. You also need your daily life expenses paid. So if you have private funding that's helping you pay rent, helping take the gas bill down, right? You need a regular monthly stipend. You need an income. Mm-hmm. And then when you train, you can focus harder, you can recover better, and refocus and retrain harder that night, the next day, the next week, whatever, right? Mm-hmm. And it all builds and snowballs versus, like I said, I'm doing whatever, Dick's Sporting Goods, was bartending for a while. You know what I mean? You're on your feet, you're moving, you're stressed. You're on a bad sleep schedule. So then, okay, bartending is not going to work because it's a bad sleep schedule. So you ditch that job. That's making your most cash. And now you take a lower paying job. The hours are better, but then you don't get that nap before practice and all that stuff. And when I went out to Pedro's Judo for like a week to kind of try it out, and to be like, do I want to really be here full time? Is this program going to fit me? I stayed with Colton Brown and Lee Gales, right? Two of our other national team members. And, of course I didn't have a job in Massachusetts for that week, right? I was basically on vacation, and that's what it was. We wake up every day and we go to the gym, then you go to technical practice, and then we go back to the apartment and shower off and get some food, and we all eat lunch, and then we all take a nap, and then you go to the randori practice, and it's go time with a room full of top 20s and stuff like that. And, but it wasn't always like that. So like even Lee's situation at the time, they're in their apartment complex, she would walk dogs in the afternoon, make a little, make some money. Mm-hmm. And she was studying for her, can't remember what it's called. She was studying for the big test for graduate school. So it's a real big test. So you have to do a lot of studying.
GMAT?
Yeah. Maybe something.
GRE.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So I think she's studying for that, and so then even, like I said, that kind of stuff adds up. And me and Colton are taking naps, lounged out on the couches, and she's studying in the corner, in and out of the room, walking dogs. And it's like, it's a luxury you don't get. And it makes a difference when you show up to Randori and the coaches are like, you look so tired. What's wrong? You're like, well, I've been up since 5:30 and we've got 2 good workouts in. And then I'm on my feet walking dog,
Ask her in the morning.
Yeah. And so it makes a difference, if you can take those naps, maybe not every day, maybe you only need a nap 1 or 2 days a week, but it helps, the difference of that versus fighting traffic to go to a job. And it's just a huge difference. But again, it's a lot of money by the time you do your travel expenses and a monthly stipend to pay for rent. And then if you're training in Boston, rent is way more versus training in Colorado Springs, versus, I stayed home in Pocatello, Idaho. And so it's hard for any given athlete, depending on the situation. There's so many moving parts and variables that it's crazy. It makes a huge difference. It does. It's not two ways around.
Yeah. So I have one more question, because we went way into details about their career.
I ramble a ton. Yeah. Sorry.
It was great. It was great. But I want one more question before we move on. You don't have to answer. You don't have to. But approximately, how much money do you think you spent, like, on your Olympic dreams, basically?
Somewhere between 200 to 225,000.
Okay, that was
5
across
6 years.
5 or 6 years. Yeah.
Yeah. So, when we left, in those 6 years, we made, virtually zero progress on my wife's student loans. And that was about like 37,000 when she graduated Idaho State, which is pretty low, all things considered, for a bachelor's degree. And, so with her student loans and then all of our other debts, I left judo with $140,000 in debt. And you figure if we had both been working full time, 100%, her student loans are gone in those 6 years. That's paid off, and we're making good income, both of us, right? And so that's my credit cards. That's all the, like I said, flights and whatever else, hotels and food and gas. And then on top of that, like I said, I was working for all but 5 of those months. So all of that cash is gone. We had $2,000 in our checking account when we left Massachusetts. That was it. So and that's her getting paid, on Friday before we left on Saturday for, and so so virtually no cash, no 401k, no Roth IRA, nothing to our names, but the $2,000 she just got paid. And the fact that we had enough money to rent the U-Haul to drive back across the States. So all the cash I'd earned was gone from working those jobs over the years. I had 2 grandmothers pass away. All of the inheritance they had left us was spent on judo tournaments, right? And so it's 140 plus all of these extra whatever. Like I said, I got when the Dick's Sporting Goods had the sponsorship for the USOPC, they gave like a $2,500 contract bonus to do like photo shoots with them and stuff, and give them, your rights as an athlete for them to market with you and stuff. So it's cool. It's like, oh yeah, cool. No, $250 or $2,500. That's good. That cash is gone. It's all gone. You know what I mean? There's nothing to show for it. There's no, stash that for a rainy day, or if nothing else, you use that to pay off your card, your credit card. And then your bills are lower for 1 month. And then the next tournament comes up and you got to rack your card back up. And so, like I said, over those 6 years, that's probably around 200 to 225.
Yeah. I think a lot of people out there who think like, oh, you just go outside and get sponsored. Like, they don't understand. This isn't like NBA or anything. Yeah.
Judo, we're not that popular.
Yeah. They're just, when you get sponsored, they probably give you like a one-time fee or an annual fee of like a couple $1,000s for stuff like that you mentioned, or they'll sponsor you with supplements, and then you have a code you give out, and every single transaction someone makes with your code, you get like $8 or something. So it's not as easy as people put it. So, well,
and you come to find out the big thing is people who just blanket statement, right? Generally speaking, people who have enough money to sponsor an athlete like that, they're money people. So they usually want to see some sort of return on their investment. And in judo, that's very difficult. You give them the Instagram shout outs and the Facebook, and that's about all you can really do for them. And it's not really a return on their investment or anything like that. And 2, if you are going to work with those people, they tend to want something from you, right? They're not just going to shell out money for you to go live your dreams. So then they want friendship. And then you come back to town after these flights and they're like, hey, come eat dinner with us. Let's talk about your trip. They want like they're kind of doing a paid friendship thing. And you've got to have charisma. You know what I mean? And for a introverted kid who works out 3 times a day and is tired, it's hard for me to go out and put on the smile and be like, hey, thank you. So this is great. Let's go drinking tonight. And I'm like, I don't want to go drinking with these sponsors, and I did see, there's other athletes that got sponsored, and I'm like, oh, it's literally because they get along as people. It had nothing to do with their actual athletic achievements or their potential or anything like that. They get along with people, and that's how you get sponsors. It's who you know, right? It's networking 101. And if you're not pretty good at that, then it's tough. Like you said, the best thing you get is 10% off of creatine. Help you with weight gain.
So with that said, let's move on to you opening your own dojo. Do you want to talk a bit about the name of your dojo, like where it is, and how did you decide to start your own club? Yeah.
So we're in Pocatello, Idaho. Just one location. Is pretty small. Again, given my financial history, I'm not in a position to own or get a loan for my own building. So I rent the mat space from a local BJJ club that I first started cross training with 12 years ago when I was in college, so we've got a long-standing good relationship. And their club's huge and it's killer. But I have to work around their schedule. So it's a part-time, two days a week. I run a kids class and adults class back to back. And, so originally, I thought I might have some, like we said, kind of some money that some people would kind of invest in the dream. And I had my eye on this building, small town, most of the areas, the whole town. Local sports store had gone out of business some years back when I was still a kid and couldn't sell the building. Real estate investing in Idaho wasn't a thing at the time. And I'd always had my eye on it. Essentially, it's like it's like 5,000 or 6,000 square feet per floor. It was a furniture store back in the 40s, right?
Yeah.
So you have these huge open floors. You've got a freight elevator, customer elevator, bathroom on every floor. The very top floor has like 1,500 square foot apartment. I'm like, man, I could wrap my mortgage into my business or vice versa, right? And it's everything comes together. My dad gets sick. We moved back to Pocatello. I told myself, if I ever move back to Pocatello, I'm going to buy that building and I'll do judo in it. And if I can find a partner, rent the next floor for BJJ, rent the next floor for kendo, yoga, weights in the basement, had this killer business plan. And so we moved back. I called my realtor and says, hey, what's up with that building? What, do you know anything about it? Can you research it? Reach out to the owner. It's been off the market for 5 years. It's been sitting there dead for 10 years. Like, what do we think? And she says, it actually sold 4 months ago to an out-of-state investor.
Oh man.
And yeah, so that was my initial reaction. I come to find out a couple months later that they are doing a low-income apartment building with it. And I'm okay with that. If you're going to take that, put it towards something good for the local community. I'll take that hit. That's okay. But it still hurts so anyways, long story short, yeah. So I'm renting from this guy. He's trying to buy a new building in the next couple months. If that's the case, the building he's under contract with will have a judo mat, a BJJ mat, and a wrestling mat. And we're going to put together a full-blown high performance grappling compound. So in the meantime, I'm running a part-time club, trying to generate interest, get some momentum going, get a base established. And then if we can move into a full-time program, really build it up and take off with it. Couple reasons why. I've been back and forth. There was a huge sorry, I can't think of the word right now. There was a big part of me that wanted to just walk away from judo forever. Like I said, I was pretty bitter. A lot of the people burn you over the years. A lot of judo people tend to have huge egos and huge attitudes, and it gets old fast. And there was just a part of me that was like, dude, I'm just going to go mountain bike and hike and snowboard and enjoy my life and close the door on it. There's a big part of me that's also like, hey, you're in a good position. You have a lot of experience to help the future. I do believe in leading by example, and I do believe in being the change you want to see in the world, right? That's why I recycle. That's why I do a lot of what I do. So I thought, if you want to see judo be better in the US, you've got to do your best to be part of the solution. That's all that, you know what I mean? And so even some days I'm like, boy, I could be living a totally different life if I wasn't trying to run this club. It still is kind of in the back of the head where I'm like, then I remind myself that you want things to be better for this next people, this next generation, even your current recreational adults, like you mentioned. I want it to be better than it was when I was growing up. I want it to be better for the community. And I want to have a significant impact in the betterment and the future of judo. So I decided I was going to start a club, going to help teach the kids. I wasn't going to do an adults only club because I want to see dynamic adults, kids. I want parents to come be able to work out with their kids if they want to make it a family thing. And, I think I've seen that be really healthy for family dynamics when you do stuff together, not just drive your kid to soccer and yell at them for missing the goal. You know what I mean? It's different when you do it with them. It's different if you learn together. And like I said, it gives the parents an opportunity to lead by example, which I believe in. So, and then of course, the last thing is, you use all that experience and you just lose it and it's gone. And it's like, I really feel like, maybe this is egotistical of me, but I feel like I deserve to get some sort of payment or retribution after all the years and after my skill set and all the knowledge I learned. You know what I mean? I do feel like, hey, it's reasonable. I'm not asking for a doctor's $150,000 a year salary, but it's reasonable that after putting that time and effort and energy and learning what I learned and experiencing what I experienced, I think it's reasonable to ask for $2,000 to $3,000 a month,
Yep.
And so I was kind of like, start your own business, see if you can make a little bit of money and make it sustainable. And that comes into my fourth main reason for doing it is I we see in USA Judo a lot that there are not very many for-profit clubs, right? There's a lot of non-for-profit. There's a lot of community, a lot of university clubs. And there's kind of this stigma around, like, you can't make money doing judo. So you go to school, you get your degree, you make money doing that, and then you volunteer and give back to the kids, and it's inevitable. More of the experienced, talented, whatever, people that have the potential to make a huge impact filter out because it's just too much to ask of volunteers 3 to 5 nights a week for 2 to 3 hours plus fighting traffic in between your job. When are you going to spend time with your kids and your family, So you reprioritize life and judo's not part of it anymore.
You just described me, but I don't have kids. So
yeah. And no offense, by the way, right? No offense, but it's what we see as a broad basis in USA Judo. There's always exceptions, but so I wanted to, again, be part of the change and be part of what I believe in and lead by example and say, we look at BJJ in the United States, they're an insanely profitable industry and martial arts. And really the only difference between us is the rule set, the ability for recreational adults to not get beat up quite as much. Right.
Yep.
And then that's it. Then that's how they run their business and the marketability. Those are the only differences. Otherwise it's the same thing, and then you look at Taekwondo and USA Taekwondo and again, say what you will about their martial art or their product. I know there's a lot of, long-standing rivalry between martial arts, but they've got a killer profitable business model. And if you ever want to, if you're a 17 kid, 25-year-old kid, whatever, 30-year-old adult, and you're looking for a career change and you're like, hey, I got my black belt. Hey, I could earn the next couple promotions, get to 3rd, 4th, 5th degree, and I could open a club. And there's a business model and it's sustainable and you can build it up and actually make a living doing this. And it's not just like a side hustle, it's not a supplementary income. It's a legitimate business. And there's just not a lot of those out there. So I thought, well, you got to do it the hard way and see if you can make it work and not just heavy Asian, areas, demographics like Seattle and San Jose and San Francisco, right? But show that it's doable in your smaller rural areas in Idaho and Colorado, and so that's, sorry. Again, I rant a lot. I go on forever.
Yeah. So, was your wife on board with this for you starting a business like this, especially since how you basically got burned by the system, right? So was she like, what are you thinking of? Like, why would you jump back into it?
No, she's very supportive. She's very on board with it. She feels similar that like, you should find some way to get paid for judo because you're worth it. You're good. You've studied a lot. You've got the experience. Like she also knows, she'll say, it's my passion and how passionate I am about just judo in general, right? That's everything. Competing, training, running the club, working out, whatever. She knows how passionate I am. I call it my healthy addiction, and sometimes any addiction is not always healthy. It gets the best of you. But she was very on board with it, and more to the point, she was really tired of seeing me get. I don't know. I guess I don't know what to say. Jerked around, for a clean term. Get jerked around by construction and manual labor bosses. It's a very common theme in the industry that people don't treat people very, very well in that industry. It's part of the culture. Sometimes it's endearing, right? Sometimes that's you jab your friends and you do jokes and it's like you talk a little smack and it's good and it's funny. But there's a point where it's like
There's a point where you just want to grab him. You just want to grab the guy, throw him to the ground, put him in a choke. Would you guys say something to say now?
Yeah. Tell me again about that last brick I laid. Yeah.
What'd you say about that last brick? You want to see this last brick? Break your arm. How about that? Break your arm.
Yeah. So she's like, if you can build a good business out of it, like I definitely think you should do it. It'll give a more relaxed, flexible lifestyle. You'll be more fulfilled in general, and you don't have to put up with as much stuff that we're tired of putting up with. So, and to be completely honest too, and to be fair, like a huge shout out to her because she was also extraordinarily supportive through the entire competitive career when there wasn't any money coming in, when it was pure money going out. And she was working full time in healthcare and making really good money for our standards. And all that was gone, huge sacrifice on her behalf. And, she'd stay up till 2 or 3 a.m. watching my matches in Europe and Asia. And, she's a number one fan and supporter. And so, we're both, there is that tendency to be like, yeah, why go back to judo, but she's very supportive for me to start my own business. And she is like, yeah, I think you deserve it. I think you'll be good at it. So let's do it.
There is this movement I've seen right now with some of the other judo players you've interviewed and some other international competitors you interviewed that, judo, we need to start being a little bit selfish. Like we have this martial art, Bushido, samurai spirit that we're supposed to be selfless. Like I said, we're not supposed to get paid when we teach. We're supposed to be doing it because we're humble and do this.
Yeah.
And I got that mindset in me sometimes because when I first started getting paid when I started doing martial art, I was like, is it okay that I get paid for this? Is it all right? Are you sure I'm all right? But Taekwondo and BJJ charge like $100, $200 a month easy, and people pay that no problem. But what if people come to our dojo and right now we're charging $40 a month auto pay, $50 a month if you want to pay cash or check, and they're like, whoa, $50? Yeah, you guys are crazy. It's like, and every time we want to raise the rate a little bit, like, maybe we should raise it $10 or $5 to help pay things. Like, oh man, are you sure the judo gods will be okay with that? It's like, we need to start accepting. It's like, we're worth something. We're an Olympics.
Yeah.
We need to show what we're worth. So it's just, I noticed this movement of like younger players, like people around our age and stuff, younger, being like, BJJ does it, Taekwondo does it. Why can't we do it?
Yeah. And so that's like I said earlier, I'm like, I grew up similar to you. So it feels weird saying that. And I'm like, maybe it's just pure ego, but I feel like I should get paid and get paid reasonably for this. You know what I mean?
We've been brainwashed basically.
Yeah. And it's part of the culture, but it is. And so like, the first couple of checks, same as you, I'm like, is this okay? And then it's like, I should probably put this back into the community. I should buy new crash pads, right? I'm like, literally you get money and you're like, oh, I should like buy back patches for the kids, or something that's like, no, you should go to a restaurant and eat a fancy dinner and enjoy it, and guilt-free. And like you said, and you're like, man, everybody else is gouging on prices and they're, every belt promotion, hey, you got to pay me for that belt, you got to pay extra. And they're marking it up. Every belt you buy is a markup for the company. You order it from Fuji and they sell it to you for $7 and say, you can charge $10 for that belt. And you're like,
can I? Is it okay for me to charge $10 for the belt?
So speaking of payments, how much are you guys charging right now at the place then? If you are sharing space, like does the owner get a cut, or is it like you have like a full package program where you can train both BJJ and judo, or like judo only is this price?
Yeah, there wasn't a whole lot of interest for people to cross train. And it's like, they're already coming to BJJ. Yeah, I was too. We've talked about doing like a full, like you said, kind of a this much for only judo or only BJJ and this much if you want to do both. But what it comes down to, like I said, the people doing BJJ are already there 3 to 4 nights a week. And the only possibility for judo is on their only nights off. And so there's just actually not hardly any crossover. So essentially I'm just very generous. I'm just paying $150 a month. Cause he wants to see me. This is part of the thing, right? He wants to support and see judo come up. He wants to see me do well. Like I said, we're longstanding friends and training partners. So he's not gouging me on price. He says, I know you're only doing part-time. So, he's charging me super low. And, so it's been a pretty good deal. Again, I was kind of self-conscious. So we're only going twice a week, and one of them Saturday mornings, which is like, who wants to go in on a Saturday morning?
You'd be surprised.
Yeah. I was in Colorado when I looked at the BJJ club. Sunday open mat was one of the busiest days.
But Saturday morning, Sunday open mats are so huge out here in California too.
I was gonna say out here it's like totally the opposite. Saturdays and Sundays are family time, kids baseball games. That coming to judo on a Saturday is like almost suicide. It was a bad deal. But it's been good so far. So I'm charging $50 a month. Like I said, it's only twice a week. it's kind of the chicken or the egg. It's like, well, so I'm not really making very much money doing this, which is unfortunately one of the main points, because I'm working my normal career plus this extra one. And the whole point of working two is to actually make progress.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But I'm also like, well, raising rates, you want to see the product get better. So I'm like, well, once we go into a full-time program and I have 4 to 5 practices a week available, then it's worth it to raise rates, And so it's kind of, but at the same time, it's like, well, at some point you gotta make it worth it. And, so it's $50 a month, and we should be 1 to 2 months around the corner from being a full-time program. And I'll probably go, I don't know, around 100 or something a month, Like I said, it's weird to say that. It's weird, but like
when you
the
say
BJJ
it out loud,
club I'm running from is like 125 already, like they're already 125, and this is not in any way a diss or but like they're not world team members. They didn't, they haven't fought Teddy Riner, you know what I mean? And so it's like, if they can charge that, like, I've been to more than 30 countries in the world and done all this stuff. So it's like, well, shouldn't feel too bad about raising my prices to that, but it sounds weird and it feels weird saying that. It does.
Yeah, I
$100
agree.
a month seems like
even when you compare I'm going to get crap for this, but even when you compare top level BJJ players, I think it's totally different level than a top level judo player. But I don't think people understand the pool of international talent worldwide for judo compared to how you just basically have top BJJ players mostly in America. So those people can charge like $300-$400 a month, and a top level judo player, international player, I think is perfectly cheap to charge $100 a month.
Yeah.
Now, when you tell people about your judo club, do you advertise like former national team member, international competitor, or do you just be like, okay, good.
Yeah.
Do tell them that. Be like, yes, I was on a national team. I am fully here. Okay.
Are you guys the only judo club around, or do you have like other clubs nearby, like a community, and where people like, were they supportive of you, or they're like, oh, there's a rival judo club opening?
No. The BJJ market in Pocatello is pretty saturated. There's like 4 or 5 different clubs and some rivalries there. I've been fortunate enough to be on a good relationship with all of them I've come across, as far as I know anyways. So there wasn't really any sort of rivalry or anything. The other judo club in town is the University Club.
Okay.
And then of course we don't really step on each other's toes because they're only student affiliated. You know what I mean? So you can't have kids, you can't have adult recreational players. You can only have university students. And if nothing else, I provide an extra outlet for them to get more practice, which only helps the university club. So there's nothing really lost or gained for our two clubs. And of course, that's my father running that. And he always tells the students, hey, if you miss a Monday at my class, you can make it up Thursday, with Ajax and stuff. And so it helps them out. And so it's been good. We work together and
Okay. And so in terms of, was this the first time you taught before, or have you taught previously somewhere else, like your dad's club?
I've taught. Yeah. So even a couple semesters when I was in university and I got my NEET on, my junior, senior year, I taught like the beginning judo classes at the university, and then the advanced classes would be, one of the Tokai guys or something. And that's where I'd work out. And that was really good. So the one thing, so then I was teaching the kids club back then too, so I'm used to teaching kids. And then my degree is physical education. It is specifically sports management. I didn't want to do like a K through 12 high school sports coach teacher. So I got a degree in sports management, but taking those classes and working with the university, it's a requirement that you write up a syllabus, you write up a curriculum. It really helps you professionalize stuff. So even from a young age, like I said, 20, 21, I was writing out like, what's judo going to look like today? Well, we're going to do 10 minutes of warm-up. Warm-up's going to be jogging, stretching, roll your shoulders, right? Whatever. So you got to break everything down. Every minute of practice has to be accounted for the university to see, what you guys are doing and why it's relevant and all that. And so I got like really good structure. I did teach the kids classes at the Olympic Training Center. a lot of the athletes, kids practice right after we did as a competitive team. Mm-hmm. So you'd stay after one night a week, maybe two, maybe this week you didn't stay after at all, but it would help and teach those kids too. And then I actually was personal coach for D'Artagnan Crockett in 2016 when he came into the Paralympics and he took bronze at 90s. So then we're getting into performance coaching at that point in time. And that was a really good kind of next step from teaching kids ukemi, to like, here's an already very athletic, talented, hardworking, and in shape person who knows pretty good judo, and let's tune up a couple things and kind of really make it come together. Mm-hmm. And then when I moved out to Pedro's, again, part of like, I was always working, I did teach at Pedro's a couple days a week to help offset the costs, and they're a commercial club. And so they did pay me and some of the other black belts when we would teach, which was good. And then I got to see that structure because they have taken pretty well and are successful with the kind of commercial dojo model, and then of course they have the high performance athletes and they have some kids that stick around and become high performers. They're all fighting at the US Open today, Good luck to them. It's funny because I see them on the posts now, and that's like 4 or 5 years later. I'm like, that kid used to be like a 12-year-old, he was messing around, not taking judo seriously. And now they're all into lifting weights and they're fit and they're fighting the cadet and the junior nationals and they're taking medals. And I'm like, dude, they're looking good. And it's pretty cool to see them remembering when they were small kids, teaching them at Pedro's to seeing them hit Team Force now. And they're part of Project 2024 and they're training in Montreal.
I think they call it Project Gold now, I think, because it's no longer 2024. Yeah.
The years keep changing. Just okay, make it gold. Get gold, all right?
Yeah. Fair enough. Yeah.
It's been a year. How many students do you have now?
Well, hold on. Congratulations on being on for a year now. Yeah. I want to ask this one question before we get into your JoJo Blue Mark. How did you come with your name of Schnauzer Judo?
So when me and my wife first started dating, she had a miniature Schnauzer that she'd had from a pup. The dog was like 6 years old when we started dating. And so I don't know, man, we fell in love. Both, me and my wife, Ashley.
And the dog.
Also the dog, yeah. So her name was Veda. And I don't know what it was, but, Veda was just like day one, number one G, me and her were pretty tight. And I just loved her. And I was like, well, if I do a judo club, what would I name it? And I just hate the idea of doing like Tadehara Judo. Mm-hmm. I didn't really like the idea of doing city, Pocatello Judo. Mm-hmm. I have thought about in the past, again, all of this is the culmination of like 6 to 10 years of like considering things, right? So there's a lot of ideas that pop in and out. And at some point in time, there was an idea of being like a franchise club, and having a club, Pocatello, and then get to Boise and have somebody that I know and trust and has worked with me for years open there. I've talked about, talked with some other people in Denver and Colorado. Hey, you guys could open a club, and we could all work together and be on the same thing. And so you don't want to do Pocatello or Idaho or, Intermountain Judo and then have a club down in Texas where there's no mountains, right? So Schnauzer Judo, it's dynamic. It goes everywhere. And then, you see there are some clubs like Bulldog Judo, right? And I'm like, so the Schnauzers, people aren't,
they're not really afraid of a Schnauzer,
Yeah, it's Bulldog. It makes a little more sense. And so I get a lot of heat for that. And people laugh. But I just knew as soon as I thought of it, I was like Schnauzer Judo. And I was like, that's it. I was like, that's going to be the name. And even that's the only thing my dear Ashley has not been supportive of. When I first told her that, she was like, no, that's not going to sell. You can't market Schnauzer Judo. There's no way. That's not the one. I'm like, no, that's the name. I know that's the name. I don't care. The product's going to be good enough. People are going to forget about the name. Mm-hmm. It's a lot more fun though, which is kind of part of what I want to do with judo too, is I want to see it be a little more dynamic. And I like the traditional Japanese, like when it's time to focus, we focus. When it's time to work, you work, shut up and pay attention. Teacher's talking and you need to learn what we're doing. Right. But I also want judo to be dynamic and fun and have a culture that's based around, fulfillment, and enjoyment of life. Because that's what it's about. That's what we're here living. Yeah. Enjoy your life, and do stuff that you enjoy and spend time with people you enjoy. And so like I call the kids class, the mini schnauzers, right? And then the adults class, the giant schnauzers, right? And it's just a fun way to kind of do it all. I just barely got the graphic design done, with Veda as our mascot, and then Schnauzer Judo on the outside and stuff. Awesome. And so I'm pretty excited about that.
Super marketable.
Yeah, I mean, but to be fair too, like schnauzers are known for their tenacity, they're hunters, and they're smart dogs. They're thinkers and they're very trainable. So I'm like, hey, that's everything you want in a judo athlete. That's it. I'm doing it.
It's something different. When I first saw your name, I was like, this has to be a joke name. It has to be like, I was the first like, it has to be like Tadehara Judo or something. Schnauzer. There's no way. But think about like, there's bulldog jujitsu, shark jujitsu. I think I saw a buck one time, buck jujitsu, which I thought dollar jujitsu. Oh no, the antlers, the buck. Okay, that's what it is.
Right.
But there is a lot of different animals. And I was like, why not a schnauzer? Make something different. Make it fun.
Yeah. So back to my question, how many students do you have now that's been a year? Are you happy with the growth of your club for the first year?
Yeah. So I've done exactly 0 marketing, no flyers, no newspapers, no ads, no radios.
Sorry, but you sound really proud of that. The way you're saying
no, well, yeah. So I'm
saving money, baby. Saving money.
It's a cheap business model. That's the thing. It's low expenses. So I'm pretty happy. I'm at about 22 students right now, men, or adults and kids all included. Right. Again, and that's twice a week, low key program, renting out of another mat space. The mat at that club currently is long and narrow. So seriously, with 6 adults, like it's tight and it's packed, and 7, 8 adults, you got to have a couple sit out, you can't run Dory. And so like at the 1 year mark, if I was in a full-time program, of course, this would be devastating and I would be like super disheartened. But for having done 0 marketing, only word of mouth, and having a 2-day-a-week program, renting out from another club, I'm really happy with where we're at currently. And there's definitely momentum building because more and more people are starting to say, hey, so-and-so was asking me, this person at work or my friends, or I got, a couple of random phone calls and messages. Hey, I talked to so-and-so and they said their kids are there. I want to know about your program. So I feel like we're really poised to grow and hit a big jump. I really need to be in a bigger mat space, 3 or 4 days a week.
A lot of people don't understand you need space for judo because you mentioned earlier in your interview, you need to move people to throw them a lot of times.
It's super dynamic and but so I'm happy with it. It's been good. Like I said, 22 people so far for a small part-time club, and it's not my main job or anything. It's good. Really
so
good.
I'm guessing your future plans are just to get more members, raise the price, and then expand and get a larger mat space. Yeah,
definitely. Like I said, if this BJJ club is able to get into that new building and we'll have our own mat space, in conjunction with theirs local wrestling program, then that alone, it'll be a bigger open, traditional square mat space, not a really skinny rectangle. And so that'll be really good. And then we'll be able to really pack the mats and bring people in and stuff. And like I said, 3-4 nights a week will be, a lot more significant.
Do you teach leg wraps to your students? I'm curious about that.
I haven't yet, so part of the thing too is it's like, you've been open a year, but it's only 2 practices a week. So it's only 100 practices. Most of these people haven't been coming for the full year, and then you miss a holiday here or something, and pandemic, say, there's an exposure. We better close down to be safe for a couple of days. So in that few practices, we're still just going over our classic Osotos, Ogoshis. I have no problem teaching leg wraps. I'm good for it, especially knowing that a lot of people are coming in for not competitive judo, but they're coming in for self-defense, or they're, coming in thinking, oh, I'll also go to BJJ, and I grew up wrestling. Yeah. So it's something I'm super open to it, but
okay.
Yeah.
This is my last question, I promise, but how have you been teaching your beginner students? Like, is it the traditional approach that you've grew up in? Like how you were taught up, like this is how you do a throw, and then you do uchikomis and you throw, or is there like some sort of newer stuff that you've like learned in university or read through books and studies and that you're trying out?
I keep it, I really try to keep it like innovative and dynamic. So, there's the basic routine of like, we're going to warm up, we're going to look at a technique and practice it. And then we'll do some randori and stuff. And sometimes we do a tachiwaza technique and practice it, and then a newaza technique and then do randori. Some days it's only tachiwaza, but I keep the warm-ups very versatile. It's like when I was growing up, it was the same warm-up. We jogged, we sat around, we did like some shoulder circles, jumping jacks, push-ups, sit-ups, stretch this, stretch that, go down to the end of the mat. You do your gymnastics, somersaults, shrimp, ebi, wakishime, right? And it was the same every day. So some days we do it like that. Other days, we do totally different stuff, single leg hops and bear crawls. And we really try to keep that part different, because a lot of those skills, if you're good at, doing one leg jumps and a square, then your footwork's going to be a lot better when it comes time to learn any new throw, and so I kind of view that as a good way to enhance their overall athleticism, so that then learning judo is not quite as choppy and 1, 2, 3, where's my left and my right kind of a thing. And then, sometimes, like I said, you show a technique, and then it's like you go do static uchikomi, everybody gets 50 in, sets of 10, and then we're going to do throws on the pad, and then we'll do randori. Some days we just do moving uchikomi, we don't do static at all. I'm like, all right, let's change it up today. So we're going to do this technique. We're going to do moving uchikomi, and then we'll do, like I said, throws on the crash pad sometimes. Sometimes we do moving uchikomi, but not in the line, right? Everybody gets their section of mat and we circle and then enter, right? So every day is a little bit different as far as that goes. And then usually I try and keep it kind of basic especially there's a lot of beginners, but definitely lately we've been talking about combinations, and it just kind of happened the other day. We were working on Sasai as a basic technique, and then started showing some different combinations in and out of it. And even for a white belt, it's like, 7th or 8th practice, this is a way advanced technical judo, but it's like, it's not really hurting them to practice it. You're missing out time to practice your fundamentals. But again, as an adult recreational player, like let it be a little more fun. Let it be a little more like see the possibilities they're not going to be good at it right away. And that's fine. We'll come back to the Osotos next week and get your basics back in. So I kind of run it pretty loosey-goosey.
Got it. Yeah. I've read a lot of studies, and also a lot of BJJ clubs are actually doing that, is that you actually do want people to struggle a little bit instead of just making them do stuff they're comfortable with. So they might not be able to do it now, but when they figure it out, it's actually going to help them retain the knowledge and learn it faster than if you just give them the answers and be like, you need to do this, you need to do this, you got to fix your hands. But the problem is people get discouraged. So you have to find that little sweet spot where they have a little bit of like positive reinforcement from success. And it has to be attainable. They have to have that feeling of like, oh, I can do this every now and again. Yeah. Yep. So that's all the questions I have. Like, it was a really long interview. No, I appreciate it though. I really do.
I have one more question about the dojo situation here. So you're going to move into a bigger building. When you guys move into your bigger building, you have your BJJ section, your wrestling section, your judo section. Are you all going to have like individual names for the gym, or is it going to be like one big gym name and then the things underneath it?
Yeah. So I think what his plan was to do, what I think he said he was going to just call the building and like the whole thing, the compound, kind of like the grappling compound. And then within the compound, you've got Schnauzer Judo and Colossal BJJ. And I don't know what the wrestling club will be. And then a little longer term, there's a good section that they'll have probably 3 or 4 squat racks and some indoor turf. And so you can kind of, if you've got those high performance grapplers, you can lift weights too and get your strength and conditioning in. And so, but yeah, so it'll be, Schnauzer Judo at the compound kind of a thing, or where are you located at? Oh, we're at the compound over on 4th, over on 5th Street. Right. So yeah.
It sounds like a great idea. Yeah, I'm really excited for you guys. Hope this comes through. I hope you get your big judo program and all that built for you.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it.
Yeah. So Anthony, you said you don't have any more questions. You're done.
Yeah, sure. I guess. So do you have any more shout outs or like questions or like how can people contact you if they want having questions for you?
Oh yeah. I've got an Instagram page and a Facebook page. I'm usually on Instagram a little more. So yeah, you can always look up just Schnauzer Judo. And it currently is a picture of my dog Veda. And so people are like, is that like, that's not the judo club, right? It's not the business page. I will have our graphic design official logo on there soon. Again, that's a picture of Veda and Schnauzer Judo. But yeah, so, Instagram is a great way to reach out. I would like to set up some clinics and stuff. If anybody ever has any interest on that, would love to. Feel free to reach out anytime. I'd love to put something together. Like I said, kind of just generate more momentum, build up more connections in the judo community. Like I said, it's tough being in Pocatello, Idaho, where there's no other judo people that I've met over the years. It's pretty isolated, and so then it's you get disconnected from the Florida, Northeastern, Boston, California kids and Texas and Colorado. It's like, I used to see all these people every month or every 2 or 3 months and talked a lot more regularly. So yeah, I'm always happy and excited to have people reach out and talk about building up judo together.
Yeah, it's great having you on the show. If you're in California, you're in Los Angeles, please come visit us. Please.
Yeah, what is especially when the Olympics are coming up in LA, like you can stay at my place. Like I'll have to ask my wife first, but yeah.
Hold on, I gotta ask my wife first, honey.
I think there's also one more question we have that we ask every interview, right?
Yes, we ask every interview. Do you want to ask or do you want me to ask?
You can ask it. Yeah.
You want me to ask? Okay. So your biggest match of the year. You're at the Olympics, you're at this big grappling convention, you're at the biggest thing in the world, whatever you want it to be at, okay? And you're allowed to come out to any song. What is your entrance music?
Man, there are so many songs I listen to that I'm like, I could walk out to this. there's tons of them. There's like tons of them. And it's so hard. I'm not good with favorites. Never have been. Okay. I remember the one that I used to most think that about. It's actually called, it's Chewbacca. Yeah, I think there's two different songs about Chewbacca that I would walk out to, by Supernova and by DVDA.
Okay,
all right. Yeah, I would go for either of those. I know it's a little old school and that's kind of corny, but like I always felt pretty good about those ones.
Okay. Now, when you came out to your international events, did you have your headphones in? Is that what you listened to coming out to?
No, I never. I did the first couple times. I used to do that, and it kind of became a distraction to kind of like mess with the phone and have it and then put it in the basket. And so I kind of stopped doing that after like 2 times. And then a couple of years later, I saw the IJF started making people take those off before they left the chute. Okay. When I was really into sports psychology, mostly what I listened to was Tool.
Yep, I love Tool.
Yeah, I listened to Tool to really try and get into the zone and do that next level kind of stuff. So when I did do the headphones, it was usually Tool or Rage Against the Machine.
Okay.
It was those were the 2, Tool and Rage Against the Machine.
All right. But he's coming out to Chewbacca.
Yeah, that's it. Nowadays, that's what it is. No more Rage Against the Machine. We're done. Tool's out. It's Chewbacca. Yep.
All right. Well,
all right.
Thank you again for being on the show.
Yeah.
We greatly appreciate it. It was amazing having you on the show. I don't know how long we were talking for, but it seemed like a blast.
It was like 2 hours ish. Yeah.
Was it 2 hours? Oh my God. It might be a 2-part interview now.
Yeah. It might be a 2-part interview. Yep.
I appreciate it. It was good. It's great to talk, and I like you guys' show and stuff. So thanks for having me on.
All right.
All right.
Thank you.
Yeah. Y'all enjoy the weekend.
Wow. what a great interview that was. A long interview, but a really good one. I got a lot of insight from there. It's kind of funny that I've kind of noticed this with some of the international competitors that we interviewed. You would think that they started like loving judo at a young age and was just groomed to be an international player and stuff. But the ones that we interviewed, it's like, no, I did it really easy. And then when I got older, I got more serious and people said I was good at it. And just like, it almost just not like they fell into it, but kind of like they fell into it. But I guess when you grew up in a dojo, you don't have any other choice.
Yeah. Also shout out to his wife. Like, geez, that story. It's just like, seriously. And as a patient ass woman, you know, like,
just with all the debt, life of an international judo player again.
Yeah, again,
you gotta find a good woman that loves you.
It just makes me just kind of reminds us of the reality of deciding to pick up the sport and taking it seriously, right? Not even I'm not even talking about just being a high level competitor, just like running a club, starting your own club.
Yeah.
Like,
well, the whole thing again that we talked about in the interviews, like this new generation of judo players about like our age and younger and stuff, just trying to get to the point where, you know, the Bushido code is great and stuff, but I want to make a living doing this. So the whole thing of like knowing our value, we have to get over that. And I still have trouble getting over that, but we have to know our value. And I appreciate him saying that, you know, he's an international competitor. He was on a US team, competing internationally. He should charge $100 a month, no problem, you know?
Yeah, I'm just glad he has a great support network to help him out, achieve his dream.
Well, I love their idea of their dojo. They're going to open up just a place where it's what are they going to call it again? The factory, or what are they going to call it?
I forgot. The name, the Schnauzer Judo Club name, just kind of like overrides everything in your memory.
But it's going to be a cool place where you can do BJJ, you can do wrestling, you can do judo. I wonder what the wrestling place is. I forgot to ask if they're going to do freestyle, folk style, and Greco. But that's one thing that other people don't understand. They're like, when I talk to my friends about wrestling, they're like, "Oh, what do you mean?" It's like there's 3 different main styles of wrestling.
I don't think
it's not. And he wants to add some catch into that too. Add some catch. Why not?
I don't think there's going to be Greco.
Oh, no love for Greco.
It's just not many people. It's the same as judo. Like, you're telling me I'm doing wrestling and I can't touch the legs. So
it's all upper body. It's crazy. But no, it was a really good interview. Got a really good insights about stuff. I think he has a really bright future. I hope that he does well. If you're out there, please look up his dojo, Schnauzer Judo, and go take a class from him. It's a great person to learn from right there.
Yeah, I have no reason to go to Idaho, but now that I do. So
now he goes to Idaho just go try this judo place. Yeah. And he says that's like the only, besides him in the college, it's the only 2 judo places in like, what did he say, like a couple miles?
Yeah. Probably realistically, there's no judo out there. So
yeah, so if you guys train judo, why not train there with an Olympic with IGF international competitor? Why not? US team member, do it. So is there anything else you want to talk about, Anthony?
Yeah, so those of you who's been listening for a while or follow our channel or YouTube or Twitch channel, remember that we have our 3 dojo tournament in the past. This is the upcoming ones on September 25th, right?
Yeah,
correct.
It's tentatively right now. It is going to be on September 25th, same time, same place. We'll stream it again live on our Twitch channel. Is that way you can watch us from Hollywood Judo, Saltalo Judo, and Goltz Judo, and whatever amalgamation that they turn into with whatever they add.
So as you all know, well, as you know, I got new cameras, but I don't know if it'll last through the whole thing for 3 hours without overheating. So we'll test it out. It should be fine. Quality should improve. If it cuts out, then it's probably because it overheated. Then I'll swap it. And let us know in the comments whether you'd want us to like commentate or add some music in the background. For like all that production value stuff takes time. So if people are just like, I don't care, I just want to watch judo, I'm gonna be like, all right, I'm not gonna do it. So
do it live. We'll have no commentary. We almost had commentary on accident on some of the matches. Because we were watching the match and Anthony goes, Juan, where's the live mic? Oh shoot, I gotta get out of here. I got to go.
Making sure you don't get us canceled. So
and the people around us canceled also. You have to tell them you have live mics. There's sometimes where one of our people were saying things like, there's a live mic right there. Like, oh, really? Like, yeah. Why?
I had okay, maybe I shouldn't say this. I'll say it.
Don't say it. Don't say it.
No, I'm gonna say it. I'll say it. It doesn't hurt, and it just kind of goes in our point of what we've been making all these episodes anyway. Yeah, during the live mic, I don't know if it caught it, but one of the refs actually asked me how long golden score is, how long the time limit is. So there, I don't know if it caught it, but that was one of the things where I'm like, oh crap, the mic's on. Like,
you got this local ref, not an IGF ref, not an international ref, not even a national ref. It was a local ref that just does small local tournaments. And again, we haven't been having tournaments that much in the past 3 years. We're just getting back into it. So I can understand how you can forget. All right. To be kind.
Well, the golden score's been around way before COVID, but okay.
Golden score is eternal. It is forever. There is no time limit. It is forever. It's that simple. Okay.
All right.
Oh, this guy here. All right. Please remember to like, share, subscribe. You can follow us on Instagram. You can follow us on YouTube at Tatami Talk. If you have any questions and you want us to go over things you want us to talk about, you can email us at tatamitalk@gmail.com. If you want to follow me on Instagram, it's the Jerry _1. You want to follow Anthony on Instagram, it is Anthony Throws. Anything else?
Nope.
No? All right. Don't forget to
slap the mat.
Oh, you're not going to fall this time?
No, I can't fall. So